is Stu Berryhill, crazy person in general, and you're listening to the Southern Fried Geekery podcast.
So I want to tell you guys about this dream I had last night.
Oh.
It was fucking insane. So I want to set the picture for you. 1920s Chicago, a bar. It's lightning outside. There's rain happening. Completely just crime noir craziness. And like there's a murder scene. There's a man dead on the floor.
It sounds like modern Chicago.
Well, true, but I mean, they're like, you know, there's like jazz flappers all freaked out in the back.
Again, modern Chicago. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, so there's all this happening, and the narrator starts talking, and just in this, you know, the completely crime noir voice. Her name was Lola. She was a showgirl. She wore red ribbons in her hair.
And her dress was down to there.
Yeah. I listened to fucking Coca Cabana last night before I went to bed, just because it was on like a YouTube thing that I had. And my brain turned it into a crime noir murder mystery.
It's okay that you listen to Barry Manilow.
No, I love Barry Manilow.
I do too.
But it took even in my conscious, I did not realize at the time that it was fucking
Copacabana.
That it was Coca Cabana. Copacabana. Sorry, my brain did not make that connection. So I'm sitting there this morning in my office in my chair rereading a book to talk about on the show today. I get like 2 cups of coffee in, and that little majestic light bulb just kind of goes off. Like I'm like 3 pages into this comic, and this out of nowhere, it's like, mother of God, my brain made Copacabana into a crime noir 20s Chicago murder mystery.
I mean, it really is, though.
It's insane.
The song is a 20s.
And so a friend of mine,
murder mystery.
A friend of mine I put up a status about it because it's 2018 and we have to Facebook every thought we have, obviously. So I put up a status about it, and my friend Mike from up in Fayetteville was like, "Is Lola okay?" And I was like, "Dude, honestly, I don't remember the end of the dream. I have no idea." But in my brain, what I've decided is that by the end of it, you realize that Tony is dead. That was the body in the floor. That Rico, the pimp, is the murderer. But that you realize that Lola completely orchestrated this whole thing. She's totally the femme fatale, and she's ran off to be with her lover, who is none other than Carmen Sandiego. Like, that's how I want that to end.
You're not allowed to drink whatever you had last night anymore. No, you're done.
That was all happening this morning. That was with my morning coffee. So, how are you guys doing, man?
Good.
Morning.
Yeah, you want to do a podcast?
Yeah.
Let's do this. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 32 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. As always, I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
I'm Craig Lance.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Jerry.
You are Jerry, and you've got something special happening this week, don't you? What's happening this week, Jerry?
What's happening, old man?
Tell us about it, brother.
Today is officially the last day of my 20s.
It is. You are turning the big 3-0 tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I start looking forward to retirement funds and mixing all of my alcoholic beverages with Pedialyte. Or
Metamucil. Yeah, you got to get some fiber in your alcohol too.
I already have a walker in my trunk.
Literally.
Yeah.
Well,
my daughter does a podcast, I want to believe. And the other person on the podcast, Lee, turns, I don't know how old, but today is her birthday as well.
Is this like podcast birthday special?
It is.
Well, dude, because we won't be together tomorrow, I just want to preemptively tell you happy birthday. And by the time everybody out here listens to this, you will already have been diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's because, you know.
I'm going to forget this ever happened.
Absolutely. But
all downhill from here.
We actually had a really great time last night. We went out for your birthday, got a whole bunch of the Southern Fried fam together, went and had some really good Mexican Tex-Mex type food at a local place here in town. Some drinks flowed. There was a volcano cake and Godzilla's. It was rad.
That was amazing. Now every cake that I have for the rest of my life is going to be really boring. That's how it's going to.
No,
you just got to step up from here.
You're 30 now. You don't get cake anymore.
I was going to say
it's every 10 years now. Like you get a birthday every 10 years. Patton Oswalt did this bit about how when you get birthdays from like 1 to 13, then you get one every year. Then it's 16, then 18, then 21. Then every 10 years after that. Yeah, until you turn like 90, and then you get one every year, and every year you get to commit a crime without getting arrested. So like by the time you're like 90, you get to like drive 90 on the freeway. No, like it levels up. You can't just start off at 90 and like do a mass murder.
I don't know that I want to have any 90-year-olds driving 90 on the freeway.
I mean, why not? Just let it happen.
So Patton Oswalt's just a genius.
I love that.
I hope we never find out there's like skeletons in his closet, but yeah,
if we do, they're going to be fun skeletons.
Yeah.
So happy birthday, Jerry. Happy birthday, Lee, over at the I Want to Believe podcast. Yeah. And let's get this thing rolling, guys. If you have been enjoying the show, and we really hope you have, go check us out on our Facebook page. We're always doing fun stuff there. We're always doing fun stuff there. We post about the shenanigans we get into and what's going on. We also have a Twitter page. We have an Instagram page. Got all kinds of stuff. We've got a YouTube channel because Sean's rad. And yeah, it's good times. You can go to all those places and connect with us. You can also email us at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. So let's get into some news, guys. The biggest news, in my opinion, from this past week, the thing that got me the most kind of like goosebumpy and excited, was that the CW announced not only that they, a while back they announced they were doing Batwoman, that we're getting Batwoman. Originally, I think we all thought she was coming out in the Arrow show.
Right.
But I read something actually last night that she's actually debuting in Supergirl. So that's going to be kind of cool. And it makes sense for her to come into Supergirl, but
it's still connected to the Arrowverse.
Yeah, it's all in the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
So my question is, they were talking about a new lesbian character in the Supergirl. I wonder if this is that character.
No, that character...
I'm not caught up on the show, so I don't know if it's...
You said lesbian character, so possibly. I know that there was a big announcement about there being a trans character. There's a there's a transgendered villain who is actually a villain in the comics.
That's my bad.
That's also going to happen in there. But but that's not the big news. The big news is that they cast the actress who's going to play her. And it's freaking amazing because it's Ruby fucking Rose.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, I'm super pumped. I think
it's like perfect.
Completely perfect casting. Not someone that in my brain I would have cast myself because I wouldn't have thought that. But now that you can think about her in that costume and in that role, it's totally rad. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. She's amazing in John Wick 2. She's amazing in John Wick 2. She's really, really good in Orange is the New Black. Like, you can definitely tell she stepped up, probably had a better director. There's a lot more. It's a movie versus a television show.
Yeah.
So, I'm super pumped.
Side note, though, because I was watching Supergirl season 2, and you actually made me remember her adopted sister in that show as I think she actually came out as gay in the second season.
Yep. So, she is a lesbian, and she's dating another cop there. So really, really cool representation in the CW shows. And CW is really good about representation in general. I think it's awesome, but of course, we can't have nice things, and so the internet did its thing like it always does, and it got pissy because and this isn't one of those things that's one-sided. The internet actually, as per usual, that there's two sides to every coin. Both kind of weird fringe factions of, I guess, the political spectrum got a little upset about this whole thing. Of course, you had the usual merry band of bigots who were like, oh no, another character who's not a straight white dude. Oh, the world's going to end. We're going to blah, blah, blah. Let's go give a douchebag on YouTube more money to produce bad shit. And so they did their thing. Really sexist, really racist, homophobic, misogynist. I mean, we're getting used to it at this point. The other side of the spectrum got mad because technically Kate Kane is a Jewish character. In the book, she's really written as more, not atheist, but non-specific religion. And so that group of people were like, oh, you can't have a Jewish woman played by a Gentile. I don't think that's the hill that's worth defending, dying on. I'm really glad we're getting a queer character. I'm really glad we're getting a queer actress playing a queer character. Super pumped about that. But
there's a segment of the internet that's going to bitch about anything and everything. And, we're just going to have to get to the point where we quit giving these people any sort of way to even affect. You're just going to have to tune them out is what it's going to come down to, because they're not going to change who they cast. They're not. Just start tuning these people out. Well,
and I think that's what a lot of actors and actresses are doing now, because one of the things that happened on this, Ruby Rose shut down her Twitter page very, very quickly. And of course, we've seen a trend of this where a black actor or actress or a queer actor or actress or a female actress or some type of minority group gets cast. A certain segment of the internet loses their fucking brains because they don't have a lot of them to begin with, and they just harass them off of that platform. But usually it takes a lot of time. I'm thinking of characters like I forget her name, but the young woman on Star Wars, there's
Rose.
Yeah,
I can't think of her real name. Either.
Yeah, there's just a lot of that.
Kelly
that
Marie Trans.
But Ruby Rose kind of did it just kind of right off the bat. And so, but of course you had...
She knew it was coming.
Yeah, well, in order to get, clicks and the news cycle rolling, there was a lot of immediate people chase Ruby Rose off the internet. And I don't actually think that's what happened. I think in this one, like, there was a little bit of it that hit and she's like, yep, it's not worth inviting this evil into my life. I'm just going to shut it down. I can live without social media for a while. And that makes a lot of sense. And so I think we're going to see that trend more and more, that once people, especially people in minority groups, get a certain amount of spotlight, they're just going to like bail off of social media or just create smaller accounts that aren't their real account or their real names. And so they can enjoy their life connecting with people that they actually know without having assholes
and
yell at them.
And speaking of the assholes, it's like, I read briefly about the article about all the complaints. I didn't see where necessarily they were all directly coming from. And I hope it wasn't from the LGBT community. But there was also that complaint that because I guess Ruby Rose identified herself as like kind of a fluid sexual or bisexual, well, she's the wrong kind of gay character.
There was a little bit of that. She I think identifies as gender fluid more than I think sexually fluid.
Somebody was up, and I know some people were making comments that like that Batwoman is a lesbian. Yeah. So they cast the wrong kind of actor as well, which is also
at that point
almost pissed me off more than the other stuff.
At that point, you're picking at nits.
I'm saying depending on where that was coming from, especially, I hope it wasn't coming from, like I said, the LGBTQ community.
Sometimes it can,
because they do. I mean, they can be just as bad at times.
Yeah, we can be as big of assholes as anybody else.
Anybody can be an asshole. Yeah. But like I said, that one specifically that's irked me when I
and I saw comments about why can't we have a butch, like an actual, like a bigger muscled woman, like what's wrong with being a, I guess, quote unquote masculine woman.
Kane is not a butch person
at all. Yeah, at all.
Okay, so harassment in the real world, if you stood in front of somebody's face and called them the names that these people call them in the on social media, they could sue you.
Absolutely.
There would be repercussions for doing that. Sometimes it's even as far as assault. I mean, there would be repercussions for the way these people treat people. And I am pro a free internet, but there's got to be some sort of policing of this harassment somehow. And I don't know how you do that. But
just use the block button.
Yeah,
to me, that's eventually that forces them into an echo chamber. But no, you're right, man.
You couldn't get away with this out in the real world.
No, man. If somebody in real life said the things to me that people say to me on the internet, like, I'm a corn-fed country boy, you'll catch these fucking hands. Like, we're not going to play that game.
Right.
Even though I did get cussed at for buying the wrong kind of M&Ms yesterday.
Oh, you live in the South, dude.
Apparently only bitches buy caramel M&Ms. You hear that? Caramel M&M bitches?
What?
Yeah, dude. No, I was in line at Walmart yesterday in Conway, and this methed out tweaker behind me saw me grab the purple bag of caramel M&Ms and like literally made the very loud comment as he was scratching his meth bites that only bitches eat caramel M&Ms and why didn't I want regular M&Ms? So my response was to like puff out my chest and turn around and say, "Who the fuck are you?" And he quickly like went to another lane. It was really funny.
Wow.
The little girl at the checkout counter laughed. It was great. We had a moment. We bonded. It was fun.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
Oh, Walmart. Never change.
never a dull moment at the Walmart.
I can't wait till they start doing tattoos at Walmart.
Oh, that's going to happen. We know it is.
Well, and continuing in the film side of news, Zazie Beetz, best known recently for playing Domino in Deadpool 2, has been announced that she has been cast alongside, I'm going to brutalize his name every time, Joaquin, every time. Sorry, Mr. Phoenix, if you have an issue with the way I pronounce your name, feel free to come on this podcast and don't really fight me because I think you might.
I don't think that's the one person we don't want to make that joke to because he might actually show up.
But he wants to come on the podcast and talk about it and explain to me in a nice, calm, professional manner why I mispronounced his name. You're welcome to come on the podcast. But has been cast to play in the solo Joker movie alongside him. No announcement of what character. There's, of course, speculation abounds between just maybe a victim or Joker's target in the movie to the high unlikely speculation of her being Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
But you never know. Excited to see her getting more comic book roles and staying within I'm not familiar with her work much outside of Deadpool, but
if you haven't watched Atlanta,
I still haven't seen it.
Man, you need to watch Atlanta because that is good. That is really
every time
good.
I want to see it, it costs unfortunately money, so I don't have to watch it. On demand and have it for free.
Well, it's on Hulu, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's on Hulu. So
finally
check,
watch
because that's
Atlanta.
how that would be how I would have watched it, either Hulu or Netflix.
It's on my short list of shows to watch.
It's
it's
so
supposed to
good,
be really
man.
good.
It's got Danny Glover in it.
It's-
So to
and
me,
he's
that's
amazing.
a sell. So.
Donald Glover.
Donald Glover.
Mr. Glover, if you're upset with him calling you
I do
Danny
that
Glover from
way
Lethal
too
Weapon
often.
franchise, come on.
What if Danny Glover is just like Donald Glover from the future that looped back around, had some like facial reconstruction surgery, and is just like time war? Like he's like Booster Gold, but
Is
for real.
he
It
coming
is
to warn us
his
about the
son,
Predators?
Is it his son?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I
Yes,
don't-
he is.
No.
Yes, he is. I'll bet you $100.
We're gonna
I
go
don't
to
have
Google,
$100
guys.
to bet you.
We're gonna go to Google, guys.
Danny Glover.
this out. I technically owe him.
Well, all right. So let's hit up while you're Googling that, and we're figuring out who owes who money on this secret fight club of podcasting.
So, Star Trek, for you Star Trek fans out there, took a direct hit this week. Their phasers were not set to stun, and Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth fucking quit. They wanted more money, and the producers were not willing to coin up. And I don't know how they're going to recover. I mean, Chris Pine leaving that. I mean, that's Captain Kirk.
Yeah, man.
You're screwed.
I didn't even know Chris Hemsworth was in that
I didn't
franchise.
know it. He must have been. I haven't watched the third one yet.
Chris Hemsworth in the first movie was his dad.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is right. Okay, so he played his dad, and they were going to do a going back to that.
Yeah. Like a rewind.
Like a rewind thing and showing his dad some stuff with his
Maybe
dad.
some
So
time
yeah, they
travel or
both
something
walked
like
out of the deal.
Okay.
Yeah, so that the Chris Hemsworth, they can just change the script and not worry about. But Chris Pine leaving, I mean, that's Captain Kirk.
So I haven't. Oh wait, we've got an answer, guys. And Sean's smiling.
Donald Glover's father, Donald Glover Sr., is a retired postal worker.
I had heard that so many times.
A lot of people have.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I had heard he clarified it on like David
okay.
Letterman or something.
Okay, I did not know that.
I don't know, Craig. Nothing now.
Breaking news, everyone. Thanks, Google.
Yeah, no, seriously, I had heard that so many times that I would have swore it was true.
It's a common misconception.
Yeah. So, hey, you learn something new every day.
Glad we could experience this with you guys.
I want to say that I actually did look that up at one point in time.
I think I checked too, and then like I said, I think he had to clarify a few times. I like talked to, especially when he was just coming up from not even after Community, but I think during the Childish Gambino rise.
Yeah.
He had to clarify that a lot.
Okay.
Well, name recognition.
Indeed.
You know,
I mean,
and
Glover, two black actors.
I was going to say, stating the obvious, they're both
Yeah.
African American men with the same last name who are in show business. Show business tends to be a little family oriented at times. There's a lot of nepotism that happens in Hollywood.
And when both of them have a name that starts with D, a lot of times,
Right.
you know, rather than name your kid with the same name, you give them a name that starts with your same letter.
And he still said, though, his biggest regret was early in his career, he went by Don instead of Donald, and his name looked like Dong Lover.
Okay.
Dong
Dong Lover.
Dong Lover.
Wow. Quality,
That
folks.
like literally just hit me. I was like, oh,
Yeah. It takes a second. It takes a second, but yeah.
I haven't had enough coffee this morning. But, I mean, getting back to Star Trek, though. So, yeah, I've watched, I think, the first two Star Trek movies. They were good. I mean, I'm not the hugest. I'm not the world's biggest Trekkie, although I think it's great. I tend to think it works better in episodal form, TV. The new series from CBS was really good. I actually liked it a lot from what I saw of it. I liked the new Klingon design. The main characters are cool. Craig's shooting up for those of you at home. Craig has this new drug. He likes to call it insulin, but we're not real sure what that is.
And we're not going to Google that, so we're just going to assume it's hard drugs.
He's tapping that main vein. He lost a bet, so he had to go to his vices.
So, peripherally, I am a Star Trek fan. I mean, it's not Star Wars to me. It's, you know, I watched a lot of the series. I watched most of the movies. I watched all the old movies, and I just haven't seen the latest, the third one, and the reboot. You know, I think that there's sometimes that you have to kind of pony up and pay people. You know, sometimes just you're getting to be Captain Kirk is not enough to keep somebody on.
Like after they lose bets about Donald Glover.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
Pony up and pay people.
I'll pony up. Don't worry about it.
Well, they just announced, didn't they just announce this week as well that Patrick Stewart was actually joining the cast of the show? So why don't they just be like, hey, why don't you just join the movie too?
Well, because that's like 100 and something years later down the timeline. So,
and I mean, to me, it also though it poses a question because like if they are done, and who's to say the studio won't just cave in and give them what they want? But like mainly Pine especially. Like, Hemsworth, they just don't show his dad anymore. It kind of, that's not as big of a loss.
Right.
But Pine, like, okay, so assuming he doesn't come back, do we continue on with a recasting? Or do you just need to kind of give the franchise a rest and then reboot? Because with a change in Kirk after 3 movies, what are your thoughts on that? 'Cause I posted on our Facebook page.
I mean, theoretically, they could do whatever they wanted to because this is a reboot and not a retelling of the old stuff. So they could write Kirk off
he could have died.
Bring in a new captain. They could do all kinds of things. They could promote Spock to captain. They could promote Sulu to captain. They could do all kinds of things to kind of get around this. I don't know how the fan base will respond to any of those things.
Well, their fan base are going to be mad regardless. So.
And it's not, so the Star Trek fan base isn't nearly as, I don't think gets nearly as rabid. They're a little bit more, are they?
Yeah.
Really?
It's a fan base, Caleb.
Oh, that's true.
There's at least 50% of them that hate the reboot.
Except ours. Our fan base loves us.
I got to quit having faith in humanity.
You know,
they're just as bad.
Kind of funny though, because that new Star Trek series released around the same time that the Orville released.
Yeah.
And all the people that I know that are huge Star Trek fans were like actually opting to watch the Orville more than the new Star Trek series.
So there's a group of people that now are mad at J.J. Abrams for ruining both Star Wars and Star Trek because he was responsible for the reboot of both of those series.
Of course there are.
So yeah.
Could have been Michael Bay.
Oh God. No, don't even speak that shit into existence. But so we've already seen Star Trek, the franchise, not to the extent of losing their main character, but a few years ago, when the young kid, the Russian kid, died. What was his name? Chekhov.
Character was Chekhov.
I forget his name in real life. Unfortunately, he was killed when his own vehicle backed over him after he was opening a gate or something. But they had to shift at that point and punt, and they wrote him off. There's nothing like it would be a major blow to the show, and it would have to be some very creative writing. And I think a lot of people would know it for what it is, and they wouldn't accept it. But they can absolutely keep this one going and do what Craig said, and
just bring in a new captain.
Well, you open it up, and either Kirk is lost or killed or captured, and the crew is having to fend for themselves out in space with something. And by the end of the movie, they maybe find him or they know where he's at, and you go into the next one. And by that time, it gives the studio and the executives enough time to figure out some mechanics and some spreadsheets and figure out where to get that extra money from.
It was Anton Yelchin.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of children of past stars, Chris Pine's dad was a star. Chips, remember the show Chips? Yeah. I might be the only one to remember.
No, dude. That
show. Yeah.
The captain that they answered to, that, a sergeant maybe, whatever, that always did like the meetings, that was his father.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
And that one I know for 100% fact.
I won't check you on that.
I mean, that's how Hollywood works. I mean, everybody, in a lot of ways, there's long lineages. Francis Ford Coppola has spawned just an insane number of people that they don't use the Coppola name, but they're all related to him.
You said insane, and the first one that comes to mind is Nick Cage.
And that's his nephew. Yeah. Lots of folks in that realm.
Yep.
Nepotism runs deep in Hollywood, and that's not necessarily a bad thing in that realm.
I mean, this isn't too far different than Carrie Fisher dying before they could do her in Star Wars, so they'll figure a way around it. I mean, they'll either pay the money, which who knows how much more he's asking.
Right.
They'll either pay the money, which is, what's ridiculous money in Hollywood these days. So
it's got to be a lot, though, right? I mean, but you also remember they're splitting it between two actors and two big actors, Hemsworth and Pine. But they've got to be asking for a mint.
I don't think Hemsworth is going to get the money he wants to reprise a role that's a flashback scene. They'll just change the script and move on. I think Pine will probably end up with close to the money he wants.
And if they just go ahead and move on without Hemsworth, that's more money freed up towards Pine.
I think they're going to do something. I can't see them moving forward with the reboot of the Star Trek franchise without Kirk in it. But it depends on how willing both sides are going to dig their heels in and fight it.
But at that point too, so this is the other side, and this is just from a fan perspective of somebody who looks at this a little bit objectively. That's a lot of hubris. Like that's like for Chris Pine and Hemsworth, and it's also like I realize it's a business, it's a job, yada yada yada. A shit ton of people are involved in this movie for a living. Everywhere from like your co-actors and your cast down to the grips and just the production assistants. There's a lot of people who are depending on that for a living. And if you've got the hubris to put all of those people out of unemployment because a couple million isn't enough and you need a couple million, that's kind of a dick thing to do at that point.
It is, but it's also a dick move to do if it's only a couple of million, it's a dick thing to do on the part of
for sure.
Of the producers. When you started, especially Star Trek, you've got years, it would have been like Star Wars rebooting and not giving Mark Hamill the money to come back.
Yeah.
And they gave him something like $40 million to not say a line in The Force Awakens. It was stupid money, but you have to pay that at some point. If you're going to have a Star Trek series with Captain Kirk, that's the star of the series. You're going to have to pay him at some point. You're going to have to pay Bones. You're going to have to pay Spock, and you're going to have to pay Kirk. The rest of them are all interchangeable in there. Even Uhura, even Sulu. They wrote Takei out, or Takei out in one of them and made him a captain on a different ship because they didn't want to give him the money. And then they came back and brought him back to the Enterprise and gave him there's things you can do.
Yeah,
there's stars of it. When you have a series that's set, that those people are going to be the stars of that series. If it's a hit, they should have locked them into long-term contracts at the beginning of it.
Well, I'm sure they probably did. Now they've reached where they're redoing those contracts, but still.
The reality is this, though, too. And kind of like you said, going on the hubris of it all, especially with Pine, and I'm not wholly familiar with what else he's doing outside of Star Trek. Star Trek.
Captain Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I guess he's doing that. Well, still, the point I get at, though, is Star Trek, they've been popular reboots. It's been good. It's not making Marvel money. It's not making...
for sure.
Star Trek is not the blockbuster franchise. It's a good franchise, but I don't think it's Avengers level.
No,
well, nothing's making the Marvel money or the Star Wars money.
Well, you know what I mean? But they're saying, so him asking for more, that kind of it was kind of implied in the article I read that he thinks that this franchise is that level is making that money. It may not be making that money.
Yeah.
But it is Paramount's biggest franchise.
Right.
Arguably, and again, if you're going to take the chance and reboot it, then you're going to have to pay those characters. I'm not defending Chris Pine. I don't even.
Well, I don't know that
read the article. I don't know what the money differences were, but I think that you have to. If you didn't want to pay those people, what you should have done was cast nobodies, which they did at the time. They were. Dean Zachary wasn't. He had been in Heroes, and is that his name?
Zachary Quinto.
Quinto. Yeah.
I knew that was wrong as soon as I said it.
Dean Zachary is actually a comic artist.
Yeah, that's right. So, he had some star power, and the chick that plays Uhura had been in Avatar.
Zoe Saldana.
Yeah, had been in
Gamora.
Avatar and Gamora. But she
before
was
Gamora. Yeah. Star Trek was before Gamora.
So you cast basically Carl Urban. So you had some star power anyways. So you knew you were going to have to pay those guys if it hit.
Yeah.
Because they were going to be stars anyways. If you didn't want to pay that, you shouldn't have done a reboot. You should have done a future version of Star Trek.
Well, I don't know. It's not a future version, but I think that's kind of what they're doing with the television show. But when you're dealing with film, too, it's always a gamble. I'm not saying it's necessarily a right move, but it is a valid thing to want star power, so you get somebody with a little bit of name recognition. And I don't even know that
pay.
Yeah, I don't even know that Pine or Hemsworth. You do have to pay. I don't know that they need defending, but still, if I'm that grip who is just there to do my job and to that's my career, and some asshole is mad because he's not getting another couple of million while I'm making, I guess, whatever, a little above minimum wage to do, or my production assistant job. On some level, it's still kind of fuck that guy. And I guess that's why they're stars and they're the driving force behind it. And
there is and there isn't fuck those guys, because those guys generally work for the studios. They're not hired as the crew necessarily for that movie. They're just going to go on and go work on whatever is next in the production.
That's true.
So yes and no. I get your point, but who he's really fucking is the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
The rest of the cast.
The actors and actresses who have to go try to get new roles.
That's right. Some of those are going to, Zoe Saldana probably never has to make another Star Trek movie again.
She's getting Gamora money, son.
Yeah. The other two, Carl Urban, I mean, he's going to, there's going to be another Judge Dredd pretty soon.
Please make another Judge Dredd.
So, I mean.
They made the Raid 2. They can make Judge Dredd too.
Right? Exactly.
Anyways, I mean, I think we've kind of beat that down. Yeah. But it's unfortunate. Hopefully they'll figure it out.
I mean, I'm available. If y'all want me to play Captain Kirk, I can do that. I can do that for you.
Well, we got one last little bit of
Craig can play my dad.
We got Hemsworth and Pine here, right at the table.
Yeah, I look a lot like Hemsworth.
You do.
I look a lot like Pine.
We're gonna make your own set, like in this dining room.
It'll be fantastic. Yeah. Like in Teen Titans Go when they make Robin his own movie.
It's gonna look really great until like Stephanie walks through to take Foxy outside or whatever,
Fantastic.
Just a pan comes through. Well, let's move over to some comic talk.
Well, I got one last little bit of television news.
I apologize, brother. I'm sorry.
Just real quick. The CW has released the official image for Flash Season 5 showing off his new, more comic book accurate costume. So it's kind of ditching the dark reds of the more leather base to a more bright red and yellow fabric. And the cool thing is also they're bringing in the Flash ring, which I don't know if that's in current continuity.
In the comics?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. It's still a thing?
Yeah.
It's always been the wackiest aspect for me of the Flash that his entire costume flies out of a ring and gets onto his body.
The most interesting thing for me on this is they introduced that back in like season 2 of Flash. Actually, it might have even been season 1 when they had Reverse Flash in it. He had it.
Oh, okay.
And then whenever Barry beat him, that they kept that ring, and I think
they never used it.
had it. Yeah.
He just quickly changes off camera and then comes back in his costume.
So it's cool that they're finally going to be using it.
And I say, going with the DC showing they're not afraid of bright colors now. Finally, I think they're moving on. So
well, in the shows they never have the shows, especially the CW shows. I mean, even in Arrow, which is largely a darker and grittier a series, it still has had some fairly, it's not been afraid of levity.
Right.
That's one of the things that I've always really loved about the CW stuff. They are not afraid to keep constantly updating their costumes and everything.
Yeah.
Because if you go back and you see season 1 of Arrow's costume and you see the current season, they've changed it at least. They've had at least 4 or 5 different versions.
Yeah, every season they make some modifications.
And what was it? Kid Flash, even the short amount of time he's been in the series, they've changed his up and they actually I love it whenever they're able to play off the designs and everything and make them more functional. And because I know one of the things about Kid Flash is he kind of had that Batman cowl thing going, where it was hard to move the neck. So the next season they adjusted it and they gave it that more
that articulation.
Material.
Yeah, I'm catching up on Supergirl right now, so I'm getting there. So now can we jump over to comics? Is that cool?
I suppose. I guess.
Anything else? Okay, let's do it. So Uncanny X-Men's coming back. We found that out at San Diego Comic-Con. It's this little event that happens in California every year. Probably never heard of it. It's not that big of a deal.
Small gathering.
NBD, bro.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they announced that Uncanny X-Men was coming back, but that was kind of all they announced. They didn't really say anything about it, what it was going to be, what it was going to do, what it was, who was doing it. This week they did. This week they announced not only the creative teams. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people on it. But they also announced the format of how they're doing it. I'm really excited. I know a lot of people aren't because here's why. If you haven't been liking the X-Men franchise the last few years, you may or may not like where they're going with this because they're not really doing a tonal shift. It doesn't look like, and I know I've said that before and I didn't expect it to, and they're not. They're pulling from a lot of the artists and writers who have been working on the X-Men stuff as we've had it. So they're getting Ed Brisson, who's been writing Old Man Logan, which has been phenomenal. It's been amazing. They're getting Kelly Thompson, who she hasn't been on the X franchises, but she's been yes, she has. She's been doing Mr. and Mrs. X. And she wrote Hawkeye. Matt Rosenberg, who is writing Multiple Man right now, and who is just a phenomenal young and up and coming or kind of already there writer. Those guys are doing the writing duties, and they dive back into the art pool of the X-Men, and they're getting Mahmoud Asrar. He's doing X-Men Red right now. They're getting R.B. Silva, who's doing X-Men Blue, Ilda Ray Sanar, who's doing Weapon X, Pierre Perez, who is doing the Rogue and Gambit book too. Who did actually a different Rogue and Gambit book. Those guys are doing the art titles, are doing the art duties on it. It's going to launch with a 10-part weekly storyline called Disassembled. So do you remember a while back when Avengers had their No Surrender run and they had a pool of writers, they had a pool of artists, and they were every week it came out. That's essentially the same thing they're doing here. And so it's going to be a weekly series for the first 10 issues, and then it's going to go to either a monthly or a bi-monthly. Jerry, is that how you say it?
Every other week.
Is it bi-weekly or bi-monthly?
It's technically
every other
both.
week is bi-weekly.
Okay, it's
bi-monthly is
technically
every
both.
other month.
Okay, they're going to go. Yeah, Jerry
Both
likes
is
to argue this
acceptable.
point, so they're going to go on a bi-weekly thing or a monthly thing with a probably set writer. Now, a lot of people were kind of expecting this to be like there was kind of an under threat of expectation that this was where Jonathan Hickman was going to come in. When they announced that Uncanny happened, the internet wheels started spinning, and they're like, okay, we know Jonathan Hickman's been working on a project. He's been talking about it on Twitter. We don't know what it is. We didn't know if it was a solo thing or if it's a company thing. They all collectively decided that this was it. It's not. And
So the internet assumed something was wrong, and they're mad that the
And they're
assumption didn't happen.
yes.
I am so shocked.
Yes, that's essentially what happened. Now, would it be cool to get that? Yes. Will we get that after this 10-issue series? Maybe. Who knows?
We kind of already had Hickman, right? X-Men. It wasn't X-Men, but he did the Uncanny Avengers.
Yeah.
Which was the combo team of Avengers and
Was that
X-Men.
Hickman?
Yeah.
Was
I
it?
believe so.
I thought that was Remender.
Maybe it was.
I think it's Remender.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then.
Sean
I
goes to
still
Google.
don't. It still doesn't matter to me to have Hickman on X-Men. I mean, it would be fantastic, but
Well, and earlier this week on the Twitters, Hickman was talking about a new solo project that he has coming out. So I think that's actually his thing, which, dude, you still haven't finished East of West yet. Like, get on the ball.
it comes out every 2 months. We get a new
Does
copy.
something. I need it to go faster.
Rick Remender did the first two.
Did he?
Okay, yeah. So, maybe we'll get it, maybe
Thank you,
not. Those are still great writers.
Well, the title of this episode is Craig is Wrong.
You're 0 for 2 now, brother. But that's okay. You're gonna redeem yourself by the end of
I'll
it.
probably just keep messing up. It's okay. We're all good.
I'm looking forward to this. I actually have enjoyed most of the X-Men stuff. Has it been life-changing? Are we going to remember it in 30 years? No, but a lot of it's been fun. It's X-Men Gold has probably been my least favorite of the series, and a lot of that has to do with the fluctuation in the art. X-Men Blue has had its ups and downs, but it's largely been entertaining at least. And the last few issues have been outstanding.
Yeah.
X-Men Red is a shit ton of fun, and they're doing a great job with that. Weapon X is one of my favorite series right now. Old Man Logan is one of my favorite series right now. I'm okay with where they're
I
going.
personally have loved Blue all the way through.
Have you?
Yeah. And I'm an X-Men fan, and it's X-Men. I mean,
It's been fun on it up until the last issue, right?
Yeah.
If you don't like what's happening in Blue or Red, then I don't know what to tell you.
Not an X-Men fan.
I don't know what to tell you because it's maybe not classic like Claremont X-Men, but it's fun X-Men stuff.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
Caleb
weird.
said, maybe it's not life-changing stuff, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's weird. It's quirky. They're doing different stuff. They've got the kids in there. It's been good. Like, it may not have been excellent. Like, we're not writing the, Dark Knight Returns level stuff, but it's been good.
Well, and like you talked about Old Man Logan, I mean, they've been using Glob and that's been a whole lot of fun. He's been like out investigating for him.
Yep.
He's like, no one wants to talk to a pink dude that they can see through, and Wolverine's just like, just do it.
I was talking-ish to the artist on that book on Twitter the other day.
Yeah.
And just telling him how much I was enjoying it. And he was talking to me back, so we were just carrying on the conversation, and really good stuff.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. But yeah, so again, to recap, Ed Breeson, Kelly Thompson, Matt Rosenberg, Mahmoud Esrar, R.B. Silva, Ildere Senar, and Pierre Perez. 10-part weekly series, X-Men Disassembled. It's happening, I think, in October.
Well, I saw that there was some, and I saw you actually have this conversation with somebody online about it being a weekly or bi-weekly or bi-monthly or however you want to say it issue. And the guy was kind of freaking out about it, that they were going to lose. And I'm like, you're going to have one book every other week instead of 3 books, basically an X-Men book every week, which is what you got going on now. You're going to have one every other week. Just chill out.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy everything if you don't want to anyways.
I like that dude. I know you're talking about. I like that dude a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not calling him out.
No,
it was just
I just want to say, I think that on some level he was just trying to have a debate for the sake of having to debate, because I had to really ask him what conversation was he having.
Right.
Are we talking about having multiple titles in the X-Men realm, or are we talking about have titles that come out more often because like I would make one point and he would say, yeah, but there's just too many X titles. And I'm like, okay, you don't have to buy them all, but it hurts when you want to read something and it comes out every week. Well, okay, now we're talking about two different things. So on some level, I think that dude was just trying to have a debate for the sake of debate, and that's not...
Don't start shit with your intellectual betters, people.
And I'm not even saying I am.
I know.
When it comes to,
Kevin Smith said that to a fan who tried to be a lot wittier than he was. He shut him down in the most embarrassingly amazing way.
I really love Kevin
And he
Smith.
ended it with the, I'm going to come to Comic-Con to fuck with my intellectual better. I was like, holy
Was that the one where he had the panel and the guy was trying to like call him out like in front of all the people?
He's like, so we know you're doing, I think
Red State at the time, wasn't it?
He was working on Red State. It was just after like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah.
And this dude, I hate the stereotype, but he looked like he just came from the internet. He literally came to his panel to fuck with him. It was like, so we know you just did Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. You're working on Red State and this other things. Are you gonna make any more? I'm trying to remember the exact. The word was pretty much like, do you think you can make a movie that's actually successful without your usual cast? Like, was talking shit to Kevin Smith, and he's like, well, I got Red State coming out. Doesn't have anyone from my usual movies. I'm working on this, and Zach and Mary didn't have a whole lot of my cast, and I don't know, man. But I'll probably get onto that after I get done fucking your mother. And you heard like the crowd explode. Funny. It was, I'm gonna come to Comic-Con and fuck with my intellectual betters. I just love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Tusk is on Netflix now, and if you haven't seen that, go check that out.
I haven't
Go watch
watched
Tusk.
it yet.
Hashtag Walrus, yeah.
It's so fucked up.
I mean, Kevin Smith is just kind of the nerd's nerd anyway. So
You know what I love about that dude? On some level, I try to maybe emulate his attitude. Maybe not his personality, but his attitude. Because it doesn't matter if something even looks like it's going to be hot garbage. He's still on some level excited about it. We have our 50-50 rule on here, which is going to come into play later. But he is so energetic and just wants everything to be good. Like, he doesn't look for a reason to drag something through the mud. Even if it's something that arguably looks bad, he's going to find a nice thing to say about it. I think that's rad. I think that's a good way to live your life. It's a good philosophy to have.
And he has a good attitude about it because he like you said, generally positive before it comes out. And if it's bad when it comes out, he'll explain why and then what he wish would have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like his whole thing with Affleck being Batman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of Batman on the DC side of comic book things,
Nice segue.
You're welcome. we have two writers that are ending their long running arcs on two separate titles. Robert Venditti's Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps is coming to an end. Issue 50 just came out this week. I'm still playing catch up on that one. I got 50 this week and then realized that I don't have 49, so shame on me. And Dan Abnett's Aquaman series is also coming to an end. Has that one ended already?
I think we're a few issues
a story arc away.
Yeah.
It's not all bad news, though. Kelly Sue DeConnick is taking over Aquaman, and Jeff Johns is coming back to Green Lantern, which, until I read this, I did not know that. So that is news to me. Yeah.
Pretty sure, didn't they announce something at Comic-Con?
Morrison.
I didn't know. Yeah, I
thought Morrison.
Yeah,
you know what?
I tried looking stuff up, and I was like...
I think the last thing we heard about John's Green Lantern was he's supposed to be involved in the next movie.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, that's my fault. On the show notes, just by inside baseball, I was thinking Morrison, but I wrote Johns.
So we're gonna rewind a little bit, and Caleb's
that's okay. I don't mind being known as a fuck up. It's what I do.
No,
So
Craig can't take all the blame.
Caleb and Craig mess up the show.
I got excited for a bit there, but I mean, I'm still excited for the Morrison run.
Yeah.
And going back to Space Cop, Hal Jordan and everything, I'm super stoked.
I'm excited to see a refocus on Green Lanterns. It really hasn't been great since Jeff Johns left. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been some fun stuff with Vendetti. He's a great writer. It hasn't been my favorite run of Green Lanterns, though.
I will say, though, that fucking art in that book. Like,
yeah,
I'm pissed at myself for not getting on it sooner, just because they're I think it's the Black Stars is who they're fighting right now. Dark Stars, and Tomar is one of them. Yeah, and they have this like splash page in 49, which is what made me want to start picking that arc up. And it's like Tomar and all the Dark Stars and Hal and all the Green Lanterns, and they're coming like clashing, and it's just the fucking coolest.
I haven't recommended the book a whole lot because Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps has been hit and miss for me throughout. The art's been solid. The story's been either okay or outstanding. So,
yeah, I picked Green Lanterns up as well for the last storyline too, and I don't know. I don't think I'm necessarily digging it as much as what's going on in Hal Jordan. But, I mean, we've got the Morrison run to look forward to now. And
I'm super excited.
I'm going to be starting that from issue 1.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty stoked on that. And honestly, I think that's all the comic news that we have.
It was a slow week. We're still on the come down from San Diego, so not a lot of, like, that's when they do all their big announcements. So there hasn't been.
Traditionally you get all the comic news and all the new movie and entertainment news from.
Well, there's something that I realized from looking through the previews that we got last week, and it's in Spidergeddon. They're adding the Spider-Man from the video game that comes out next week into it, and I was like, oh,
is that next week?
The game? So the game's next month.
Okay, I thought you said next week. And I was like, dang, I thought it was in September. Did I miss out on something?
Well, in video game news, Spider-Man comes out next month.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be hard pressed because then in October, Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out.
Well, you're just going to have to get Spider-Man and beat it before Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah,
I might actually. I'm not a very big gamer, as most people know, but Red Dead is probably something I'm picking up. Like,
did you watch the gameplay trailer there?
No, not yet. But I played the first game and loved it.
Yeah.
I love westerns. I love horror. So Western horror is meant for me.
Mm-hmm. And all the stuff that they showed for this version of it just all looks phenomenal so far.
You know what's weird about being a Southerner? When you say words like horror, it blends. Like, you really can't.
Yeah.
It really sounds like I don't know if I'm saying horror or if those are the same
Southern
thing.
World
they are
problems.
the same. Right. It's a horrorful horror.
Yeah. A horrorful horror.
Horrorful horror.
So that's it on the news. Out there in Radioland, if you guys ever hear of anything that you think is really cool, drop it on our Facebook page.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
that helps us know what all's going on. And we're nerds just like you guys, so we live on the same internet you do. And so if you find stuff that's cool, we probably think it's cool too. So come to our Facebook page, come to our Instagram, or tweet us, or email us, and let us know what you think is rad. And we'll give you our opinions on it, and we'll talk to you about it.
Even if you don't ask for it, we'll probably give you our opinions on
exactly.
it.
We're distributing that shit for free.
You're welcome.
Hey, speaking of listeners, though, one of the cool things about having our Facebook group and being connected with the people who listen to the show is a lot of times they send us questions. And so we have been, the past couple of weeks, answering some of those questions, and it's been really fun. I don't know about you guys. Only speaking for myself, though, it's been really, really cool talking about what the Southern Fried Fam is asking us.
It's been a fun added segment. I hope that we keep getting questions and we can leave this segment in.
I really do too. And it guys, it doesn't have to be specifically about comic. It can be something from the deep, deep pool of nerd culture, just anything, and we'll chit chat about it. Great questions. In saying that, this week I injected myself into it a little bit because recently I have been going through my comic book collection and re-alphabetizing it, putting in a lot of books that are new books into my collection, and making my collection look like my CLZ comic book database that I keep on my phone that stores my entire collection. So I don't have a collection that's Craig level, but I think I have 18 long boxes right now, and so it's been a feat. And I store my comics in my attic, and before anybody freaks out, my attic is finished out, it's insulated, and it's climate controlled, so my books are fine. I'm not keeping my treasures in a heat dungeon. We're okay. The hard part about that for me is when I have a collection of that size, especially when you buy other bulk collections, is when you incorporate them. So if I buy a small collection that's got 300 Batman books, then I have to shift everything down in boxes. And it makes it a little bit difficult when you're arranging and you're having to move everything, right? So my question that I wanted to pose to you guys, and I hope some of the people who listen to the show come on our Facebook group and talk to us about it, but when you guys look at your collections and when you're alphabetizing and organized, do you factor in complete runs versus incomplete runs when you're putting your books in boxes? So I took out, and just from my experience, I took out several completed runs and I stored them in short boxes, just to kind of pull them out, because there's nothing I can add to those. They're complete. They're done. And so I stored them in short boxes versus having them in my ongoing long box collection. And I can label them and send them to the side and I know where they're at. Do you guys do that, or how do you organize your books? Or do you factor in ongoing versus complete stuff when you're keeping your stuff organized?
Oh, I'm pretty sure I probably have the smallest collection out of this collection of people here at the table. And mine is Chaos. It is, other than the short box I bought specifically when I bought the bulk of New Mutants original 80s run.
Right.
Which that has its own box. Mm-hmm. I keep everything together, numerically in order, but it's just Savage Dragon and then Walking Dead, Usagi, just whatever collection I grab next into like 3 long boxes I have right now. But I do like the idea of what you're talking about starting to put completed runs. And like, I try to separate that, ongoing versus completed, but they're just in another long box mixed in with other ones. Yeah. So I'm sure it would drive a lot of collectors insane if they looked at my boxes. And then, of course, including the new issues that I'm buying weekly, that just pile up until I get annoyed, and then I finally file them away. It's terrible. I'm a bad collector. But I'm looking forward to the short boxes Caleb's going to bring me.
Yeah, I am. I'm going
to implement that whole idea. That's a great idea.
Mine is also Chaos, which is a little disappointing knowing that I fucking sorted and alphabetized all of Kapow's books.
Yeah, but like with threat of violence to get you to actually do that, though. Let's be fair.
Yeah, that was a literal job.
Yeah, but normally how I would do mine is because I usually do it by company. And then, you alphabetize and go by your numerics.
So you have like a DC section, a Marvel section, and an okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's not Chaos.
Yeah.
That's not Chaos. I'm Chaos.
Well, I mean, that's how I would do it whenever I finally decide to do it. But normally I don't factor in stuff that I'm going to buy later on. I just... Like we do at the comic book store, I just add a box later on and sift everything around it. Like if I have completed stuff, it's just in there with it all and everything.
Yeah. New runs just get put in the back with my box.
Yeah.
I intentionally waited till the end on this one because, I've got the most headache when dealing with...
You have the comic library.
So
I've seen him wheeling the Ark of the Covenant to the back section of his collection.
So somebody once said... I showed them a picture of my comic books when I was sorting them, and they said organized chaos. Mm-hmm. And that's just the truth. When you're dealing with comics, some people collect things and you get a new thing 2 to 3 times a year. Every week, we get anywhere from 5 to 30 new books to add to our collection, depending on what level you're buying at, okay? Maybe 2, whatever, okay? But you're getting new books to add every week. Adding those new books in is always a headache. So what I do personally is about once a year I reorganize my comics.
Okay.
And I do it alphabetically. When I had a smaller collection, I don't mean smaller like yours. I'm just saying when I had a smaller collection.
No, well, size correct.
Smaller is still bigger than all of ours.
I'm compensating.
That is so it's a relative term at that point.
So when I had a smaller collection, I absolutely did that. I pulled out runs. I kept ongoing separate from from older books that I was just trying to fill in runs. It got to be too much. It was too hard to find things when let's say we have a Comic-Con and I want to get something signed with the collection I have, which is now over 36,000 books, single issue books. So there's probably more like 38,000.
His face brightened as he said that, by the way.
Ours all sunk down lower.
It's very hard to go through there and find a book that you're looking for to get signed if you have them in different places.
Right.
Or if you don't have them alphabetically, or you don't have them some way organized in your mind. Having said that, I know my alphabetizing and my organization skills drove Dalton Shannon nuts. For instance, Action Comics goes under A, Superman goes under S, Batman goes under B, Detective Comics goes under B for Batman.
No, oh God.
And he's like, how is that possible? I'm like, well, because Action Comics isn't always Superman. Sometimes it's Supergirl. Sometimes it's, in the classic stuff, it could be. Detective is almost always Batman.
James Tynion, man.
Sometimes it's not, but almost always it's Batman.
My OCD is itching. I want to go to your storage locker.
Everything is alphabetical except I ignore adjectives.
So all new, all different. I was going to ask
Avengers all go under Avengers. So if it's Avengers without an adjective, it's Avengers. Yeah, then I start alphabetically, all new, blah, blah, blah.
See, I'm making my collection map my CLZ app. Yeah. I'm doing that, except I'm doing that for the word the.
Oh, I ignore
But
it.
I'm putting like all new, all different, or going in the A's because that's what my app is telling. I decided
you said you're wrong.
I decided I wasn't making decisions anymore, so I'm letting my machine tell me how to live, except for anything that starts with
this
D.
is how Skynet takes over.
As soon as I find an all new, all different X-Men in one of your boxes, I'm shuffling it back.
If that's the way it goes, except for one title, and that's New Mutants, because it's the only even though it's that was what the name of that team.
I mean, that's the actual title.
Yeah. So that one goes under in because it's otherwise it doesn't make sense in my head. So yeah, it's a chaos that only I would understand. If I said, "Hey Caleb, could you go to my storage and go grab me this book?" You'd go, yeah, no. But then, so what I do throughout the year then is once I get 3 or 4 short boxes because I'm too old and fat to be carrying around long boxes anymore, I log them in the computer, I take them over to storage, and I label them 1, 2, 3, 4. And I do that 10 times throughout the year, however many times I add books to it throughout the year. At the end of the year, at some point, I mean, it's getting to that point now where I'm going to have to go to storage, pull all of those back, bring them back to the house, integrate them alphabetically, take them back to storage, and integrate them into my existing alphabetically. There's really no good way to do that other than you're going to have to pull out boxes and move them.
No, but the other side of that is, and this is something that listening to all of us talk, it's interesting. The way we all collect and organize is different. I think that's something it's a personal element to your collection. Collecting is a very personal thing, and where things are do mean something to you. And doing stuff like Craig's talking about, and I kind of do the same thing. I keep 2 short boxes in my office that all my new comics go in, and they build up, and then I take them to the comic attic and incorporate them in. I love doing that though, because then I'm flipping through all of my books again and I'm like playing with my pretties.
I was actually going to say that, and I know I will probably do it when I organize my stuff, but thinking of Caleb organizing his comics is like telling a kid to pick up his room, where like he gets like 5 things into it and then sees a toy that he hasn't seen in like 5 or 6 years. Yeah. He's like, oh, Thunderstrike #1. I forgot I had this.
That's totally me.
I totally need to read Thunderstrike.
Absolutely. That was fun.
Yeah,
that's interesting. It's always fascinating to me how other enthusiasts like to organize and like to
organize chaos,
appreciate their collections. Yeah, it's organized chaos. So our friend Stephanie, well, she's 3 of our friends. She's somebody else's.
She's really special to one of us,
Madam, his lady friend.
Special to all of us, but really special to one of us.
Yeah, Stephanie Straw had a question, and she wants to know, who is your favorite comic villain and why? And so, who wants to kick off on this?
Well, everybody's looking at me, so
I mean, she's your girlfriend.
I love villains, and it's kind of funny because I'm not always a fan of like the big villains. Mm-hmm. I think out of the big villains, Magneto's my favorite, but like Spider-Man has great rogues and Flash has great rogues. But I always like them whenever they're a little quirky and weird, like Shocker. Mm-hmm. But I think my top favorite would probably be Captain Cold. And it's mostly because he's not like imbued with some kind of like powers or anything. His intelligence, like he's cold-hearted, calculating, and just super intelligent. And I've just always really liked that aspect of him. And cold guns are just awesome.
Like, I was going to say, one of the things you loved about him is that it was his intellect that led him to build this cold gun. Yeah. But then you hated in New 52 when all of a sudden
he had cold powers.
He had cold powers.
Yeah. Which, the best part of New 52 is whenever they had Forever Evil.
Forever Evil, yeah.
And Johnny Quick was actually like fucking everybody up, and he basically had him pinned down. And he was talking about like, oh, what are you going to do with your freeze ray? And he's like, it's not a freeze ray, it's a cold gun. And he's like, what's the difference? And he's like, oh, it, freezes, stops the molecules or whatever. And then he says like this key code, Jingle Bells Batman Smells, and it activates the gun and it shoots Johnny Quick in the leg. And he kicks his fucking leg and shatters it. And it's just like a
speedster that can't run.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things of like, it's always built up, but there's always been like that spoken thing that he's had with Flash of like not killing or damaging, but I'm sure Flash still like frustrates the shit out of him. So he was able like, I don't have anything with this guy, so fuck you, and he just
destroyed
his fucking leg.
Now, you actually cosplayed Captain Cold one time, didn't you?
Yeah, I got a Nerf gun and I got a friend to mod it and paint it up for me. And Sean was my Heat Wave.
Yeah, we did the CW version.
Yeah, and this was right around when they were really big on Flash and Legends. Legends of Tomorrow, I guess, just came out.
It was just coming out because we were still basing our look on the Flash appearances.
Yeah, so we actually did those.
It warms my heart when you say things like Sean is my Heat Wave. That's a Hallmark card for nerds.
Yeah.
It's true. It's our special relationship.
Yeah, and also alliteration helps.
Yeah. As always.
So, Sean, who's yours?
I would definitely have to say Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
I have a big collection of her figures and statues, a few books. But it really stemmed from the cartoon. Because when Batman the Animated Series came out, I was roughly in junior high and didn't know shit about DC outside the Tim Burton Batman film. Because I was a Marvel kid, 100%. Right. So watching this cartoon about, especially when you get her origin. At first, she's just kind of Joker's sidekick, a hot chick in a jumpsuit with some face paint. Always like clowns. But then you find out her origin about how she was a psychiatrist that basically got completely obsessed with her own patient. And it's threw all that away to go into an abusive, manipulative relationship. She was a tragic figure. That came out of nowhere for me, at least. I'd never seen writing like that.
It's some sort of reverse Stockholm syndrome.
No, I think it's straight up.
I think it's just regular Stockholm.
Well, I mean, that was
Stockholm is when
she would have been captured by him.
She broke all the rules with her obsession, and then it became Stockholm.
Yeah. Right, because even though when he kicked her out, beat her, I mean, there's a lot of stuff they didn't really say up front, especially back in those ones.
Right.
And that's I don't know, I just really fell in love with the character. It's a tragic character. And it's kind of what irritates me about, modern fan base. And, I mean, hey, as long as they're into it, it's cool. But, just as someone who kind of just came in, not trying to sound like an old hipster, back when the first was out there.
I liked it before it was cool.
You know what I mean? It's just because I see that meme of I want a relationship like Harley and Joker. No, the fuck you don't. Go read a book. But I digress. But it's just because she is a tragic character, an interesting character, and who, while I liked the idea that she eventually kind of got on her own, because in her own adventures that she did, even in the old days, especially the famous team up with Poison Ivy, it showed that she had her own thing. I've fallen out of the character as far as the modern take, because they didn't really just make her become her own character. They made her a female Joker. And it's I think she deserved better than that. So going back to the Paul Dini, the Bruce Timm era, that was my shit. Mad Love I got the trade paperback of that, the adaptation that she also did in the cartoon. Mm-hmm. But, that's one of my favorite villains because it's a tragic villain. She is batshit insane, and, she's acrobatic, while studying to be a psychiatrist, she also apparently was a very good gymnast. So, it just made her an interesting foil for Batman, an interesting sidekick with a tragic love story. So I always found her very interesting.
I just knew you were going to go with the Savage Dragon villain. I was wrong again.
Oh, okay. Well, I should have brought up Hercules, but you said we had to keep it to Marvels. I could talk about Savage Dragon Hercules if you wanted.
Ooh.
Oh, wait, that was Thor. Never mind. I don't know. A Thor version in there.
It's all the same. Thor, Hercules. Mine is Doc Ock. I was going to say Joker, but then I thought about it and I'm like, as great as Joker is, for me, it's really Doc Ock. And it's because he's not just the villain with the superpowers. He's not just the villain with the intellect. He doesn't have superpowers, but he does have those mechanical arms that are essentially superpowers. So, not only is he a fight for Peter physically, also Peter can't, because a lot of times Peter beats his bad guys by outthinking them. Mm-hmm. With Doc Ock, it's a combination. He's got to be able to outfight him and outthink him. So just so many fun things that have happened over the years. The whole Superior Spider-Man, which I kind of hated when it happened because I wanted Peter Parker's Spider-Man, not Doc Ock. But honestly, it's a fantastic story. So plus, he's just kind of a slimy jerk, and he's just a jerk. He's arrogant and an asshole, and it's always fun to see him get beat. So,
and for me, at least up until Homecoming, he was the villain of my favorite Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
I think that the movie adaptation of Doc Ock, I think, was very well done.
Yeah, I mean, it was a perfect casting and executed very well.
So for mine, my favorite comic book villain is Bob Kane. No, I'm kidding. No, just kidding, guys. I'm glad.
Comic book villain or the toxic fan base?
My favorite comic book villain is hands down Ultron. Ultron was the first big bad that I, as a comic reader, ever really got into. His whole story, the backstory of how he was created by Hank Pym to serve a purpose, to be a thing of good, and was corrupted because it was that whole, the machine realizes that the only way to save humanity is to obliterate humanity. There's a lot of nuance in that. This crazy murder machine who can self-replicate, who also wants his own family, who wants to tap into humanity while at the same time destroying humanity, I think speaks a lot of our modern technology. And this is a character that was created back in the 60s before we knew anything about artificial intelligence or anything like that. So it just speaks to the foresight and the creativity of people like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and all of those guys who created those characters. And I'm being a bad nerd right now. I don't actually know who created Ultron.
Roy Thomas.
Roy Thomas.
And John Buscema.
Genius of Roy Thomas and John Buscema. Just incredible work. He has these really insane moments, these very large moments, and he's completely a fuck up. He is a mistake. He is a mistake of genius, and he is a tragic mistake. And through him, I mean, he created the Vision. There's this whole family dynamic that stems down from Hank Pym through Ultron to the Vision, Wonder Man, Scarlet Witch.
Crap, I'm forgetting his name. I'm going blank. The Runaway.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting his name. But yeah, the robot from Runaways. Product of Ultron. Victor, thank you.
Yeah, so there's a whole lineage of characters that came out of him, and he's just fucking evil. Like he is a truly, truly sadistic character. I mean, you've got characters like Red Hood who just want to, they're bigots. Like they just want to obliterate one part of humanity for power. Ultron doesn't actually want power. He just wants to destroy. Like he wants to destroy everything and live in computer science.
He's the most dangerous type of villain there is. The ones that think that they're doing, that the ends justify the means. That getting to a peaceful society is okay if it takes wiping out everybody in society to make it peaceful, or forcing people to believe the way you believe so that everything is. Those are the most dangerous type of villains there
Absolutely.
And that's what resonates. I think that's.
And outside of that, too, you also get this personality trait of a child being scorned that hates his father.
Yeah.
Hates his father. And we're not going to get in my psychology, but I love my father.
Are you Ultron?
Not today, but come Monday morning. But no, man. So yeah, Ultron, man. For me, hands down, easiest question I have had to answer yet.
I just like someone's interpretation from the Avengers movie, Age of Ultron, where once he became sentient, he wanted to learn all about humanity and jumped online. And said after spending 2 minutes online looking at humanity, he decided to destroy us all.
And you know what? Ultron was right.
We're all Ultron.
All right, so last question before we get to move on. This guy's asked a question before. We like this guy. This is our buddy Tyler May, really good friend of ours from here in Central Arkansas, and he wants to know what comic moment has been the most emotional for you. Who wants to kick this one off?
I guess I will start again since everyone's looking at
We'll
me.
just go in the same order.
That'll work. So it is not difficult for me to get emotional while reading a comic book.
You're a sensitive soul.
As soon as I saw your email with this question on it at like 1 a.m., I was like just thinking of all these moments that I wanted to talk about. And there was too many. So the one that I decided to fall on is, if anybody's read it, J. Michael Straczynski and Saad Ribic's Silver Surfer Requiem.
I have not.
I haven't read it. Yeah.
I think I have the trade paperback. I meant to grab it today so I could use it, but it's fantastic. It's essentially Norrin Radd, the Silver Surfer, Herald of Galactus, has found out that the cosmic powers in him are basically breaking him down, and he's going to die. He through this book, he just goes through so much stuff trying to figure out, what he can do in his final moments that will make a difference and change everything. And one of the people that he goes to is Spider-Man, and he's like asking him, what's something that you would do if you had my abilities? And then he just kind of comes up to this like, well, here, why don't I give you my abilities so you can experience it yourself? And Peter's just like, well, actually, I have a better idea. So he brings MJ in, and he lets MJ experience the power cosmic, and she describes it as like one of the most beautiful things that she's ever experienced. It made her feel free just being able to fly among the stars. So she pretty much comes up with this response to him of something that he can do, because she says, like, if all of humanity could feel this, maybe things, wouldn't be so bleak. And so what he does is he expends his power, and it gives everyone on the planet like a brief like glimpse of like his freedom and just his being able to be among the stars and all this. And it touches on like, people in third world countries or people at POA camps and stuff like that. And it was just like a really heartfelt moment. And of course that just every issue had a moment like that. Yeah. But I thought that was one of the really, big ones, is you have this character that's almost like a god that's, his powers are like kind of failing him, and he's dying. And so he uses some of his last bit of time to save people and try to change, make
one last difference.
Yeah. Give them an experience and stuff like that. And I thought that was really powerful. And now I want to go back and read that book. But it was really great. Highly recommend it for anybody.
Nice. Yeah. Well, full disclosure, I think I've mentioned it before, especially regarding like Jerry when we talk about One Piece. I'm envious of people who can get truly moved by books. Like, I enjoy my books, that there's been those moments, but I wouldn't say anything would ever hit me emotionally. It's very rare. So I've got a two-way tie, and I've covered them before, so I'm going to go back over them really briefly. Of course, it was the goosebumps that were given to me by One Piece at the Arlong Park. Still gets me excited. Still gets me just like, it gives an emotional reaction of just excitement for me. Now, I don't know, like I said, if sad is the emotion he was wanting, but
no, an emotion, period.
There was that. It definitely, every time, even like I said, I went over it again, rereading it, it still hits me every time. Other one is recent. Spoiler. I don't have a joke for spoiler. The spoilers for Saga coming up. So just skip ahead about 30 seconds if you don't want to hear it. Marco's death pissed me the fuck off in Saga. I mean, I just got mad. Not just because he died, but then they're going on hiatus immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
So those are probably the most, like, at least come to my mind, the most ones that elicit any kind of like true reaction of emotion.
So again, this is going to be major spoilers on mine. It's a book that's 20 years old, but I realize people haven't, and not everybody's read it. Sandman, the death of Dream, and it's Dream of the Endless, which tells you that he's coming back. So it's not just the death of Dream, but the resurrection of Dream, and how they go about this. Because the whole story, it's a minor spoiler that Dream is going to die, because it kind of establishes that very early in the series. And he's trying to figure out how, because he is part of the Endless, him and his siblings are, dream, death, desire, destiny, they're the things that can't die. Mm-hmm. Without them, humanity ceases to exist. So, that there's going to be a new Dream, a new person taking over that is that same character. It's just a new version of it. You just don't know how. And so the funeral for Morpheus ties all of the current DC continuity at the time into it, because you have people like Swamp Thing and Constantine are attending his funeral. It tied all of that world together, and it was one of the most powerful moments in comics for me. So the two combined, especially how he came back and how he had set it up, because stuff that happened in maybe the second story arc of this, I think it's 100 and something issue series, played out at the end. Mm-hmm. So it was really amazing how it happened. So
nice. Yeah. So I'm kind of like Sean on this one. For me, I kind of had a two-way tie, and this is a split I guess because of the specific question that was asked, what kind of emotion? And like Sean said, you were talking about sadness, happiness, what all is in there. So I have two, and so I'll kind of like Sean, I'll be brief about it because I couldn't decide. So the first one comes out of the graphic novel I Killed Giants. And this is if you haven't read this book, I highly recommend both the book and the movie. It was written by Joe Kelly and drawn by J.M. Ken Nomura. There is a moment, and it doesn't, this book doesn't pull any punches, and it leads you right up to it. So, if you haven't read it, spoilers, but it's old enough that you should have by now. If you're making a conscious choice, go do it. In the book, the mother is sick. The mother has cancer. That the mother is probably going to die. It leads you up to that point. It's going to happen, but then the mother does in fact pass away. Even though it's going to happen, that moment still hits you like a ton of bricks. I remember being in my office reading this book and just weeping, openly weeping, even though I knew it was going to happen. I have teardrops on that book in real life. It was extremely touching, extremely heartfelt, and for a book to move you to get that kind of emotional response, that is good writing. It is good art. It's just phenomenal. The other one comes, and for those of you who know me in real life, and if you're new, full disclosure, I'm a gay man. Everybody else is rolling their eyes because they already know that. But
we know.
I don't know how to roll my eyes. Is that like rolling your R's?
I hate you. Right. You are terrible. Astonishing X-Men number 51 was the issue that, as far as I'm aware, was the first marriage between two men in comics. Now, they may have happened before, at least mainstream comics, it was the first. North Star married his longtime partner. And I got married in 2012. I got married. Sorry. We've been together since 2012. I got married in 2016. This book came out in 2012. When this book came out, it was illegal for me to get legally married. That was not a possibility. So seeing two characters get married in the X-Men, in Marvel Comics, in a mainstream book, it meant a lot to me. It still means a lot to me. I have several copies of this issue. It's not necessarily worth anything monetarily, but it means a lot to me personally. I remember feeling both happy and sad because at the time, this is what I wanted in my future, but it was not a possibility. It was functionally illegal for me to get married, other than at the time, very few states, to my who's now my husband. And so seeing that moment meant a lot. And representation in comics matters. Representation in media matters, and it means a lot. So yeah, those are my two books.
I actually had one more that I wanted to throw out.
Oh, did you? Okay. Go ahead.
It was one of my toss-ups that I had. The ending of Watchmen, when Rorschach leaves Ozymandias' pyramid, and they get to that crossways with Dr. Manhattan, and Dr. Manhattan knows that this lie has to be a thing in order to save humanity. Rorschach knows it in his heart, but he can't break his, code as, the type of person that he has. He can't have it based, peace based on a lie and everything.
Right.
So, I mean, he's just basically screaming at him, asking what he's waiting for and stuff. And that one just, oh man. And with Night Owl coming in right after it happens and everything, that was a huge moment in that book.
Well, since you guys all did too, I'll throw in one real quick. The Funeral of Ultimate Peter Parker.
Oh.
Done by Brian Michael Bendis. I forget who was on the art, and I don't have it looked up. But, just absolutely was fantastic and heart-wrenching when Aunt May pretty much tells Tony Stark to go fuck himself that he did this.
It would have been Bagley.
Yeah.
It would have been Bagley.
It was probably Bagley.
Yeah, it was Bagley.
Because he did a good portion of the, if not all of the Ultimate Spider-Man. So that was my runner-up, and I went back and forth between the two. So
nice.
Yeah, there's just so many manga and comic. Yeah. We could do this all. We could do an entire episode.
Yeah, for sure. So when we leave here, once I get sat down, I'll probably throw up a thing on our social media, probably our Facebook page, asking you guys, come tell us. I want to know what the most emotional moment in comic is for you. I really do. I love talking about this stuff. So come on our Facebook page and tell us what that is. Also, I have to go home and write a story about Rorschach and the giant squid.
You're welcome.
That's got to happen.
And we'd actually like to hear, if you hear any of these questions that we answer on the show, we would love to hear your answers on our social media.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you organize your comics? What's your favorite comic book villain? The ones we did today. and who done in the past. We'd love to hear from y'all.
Because we assume that y'all are smart people out there. Because number one, you're listening to us, and that means
gotta
you're
be smart.
So
right?
You can tell us your answers. One of the other cool things about our Facebook page, Sean is a pretty dope doodler. I think that should be your official title. You're the dope doodler.
Dope doodler.
So you are doing this series of daily drawings, and what you have decided to do is incorporate the show into it. So each day you do a daily drawing that gets requested from one of our listeners or one of our Facebook friends or something like that. So why don't you tell us what you drew this week and who requested it?
I will do just that. We got a little bit longer of a list since the last time we recorded was on a Friday. So here we go. We have the second request for Lobo by one Mark Cal L. Alloway. Ironically, not requesting Superman. He used to be a coworker of mine. Good dude. Next day we did Captain Planet as requested by one Caleb Alexander McKenzie. For
you did.
Reasons.
Love Captain Planet, man.
He's a hero. Gonna take pollution down to 0. After that, I got requested Broly from the Dragon Ball Z universe by one Kyle Squeaky Heron.
Oh, Squeaky.
You're about to hear this name a few times in this request. He gave me a list, and I've just been alternating between others and then going back to his list and get it all knocked out. After that, I did Proto Man from the Mega Man video game franchise, as requested by one Jonathan Cook, who Jerry shares an intimate living relationship with.
Ooh.
Oh, what?
Room neighbors.
News to me.
Room neighbors. I don't know. Hey, what goes on in the house of Jerry stays in the house of Jerry.
Room neighbors.
However you want to put it, they live like down the hall from each other. After that, keeping on theme, actually, was Mega Man and his dog Rush from the Mega Man franchise by one Russ Galusha.
Oh, I love Russ.
We miss Russ.
I miss Russ a lot.
Russ, come back to us. It can't be good over there.
And
come
you're
back.
a poet.
After that, it was Spooky Scary Skeletons. Was all he put, and the first Google searching of the old black and white cartoon of the skeletons dancing in the graveyard. Mm-hmm. So I drew those. I hope that's what he meant.
Rattling
From one Kyle Squeaky Heron requested that as well. After that, I got an interesting request that required a lot of backstory, and hope y'all appreciate reading that. Noel Eubanks, another friend and roommate of us and roommate of Jerry, should I say, requested that, as we discussed in our previous RPG episode, I ran a Pathfinder game for over a year and did several, actually. She asked me, to draw one of my favorite player characters or even an NPC. I chose one of my favorite moments and one of my favorite characters. Was actually a character known as Dweeble the Feeble, which you should remember if you listen to our RPG episode. That was Caleb's character, who no one expected to live through the entirety of my story, and by God, she did.
No one expected that character to live past the first night.
And what I had illustrated through much adventure, loss, and outrage, Dweeble became the leader of what's known as the War Cult against their particular enemy, the Ash Hand Orcs. And as we said, Dweeble survived the entire campaign until the very last battle, where she did fall. And as a reward and storyline, I made her come back as the god of the War Cult, inspiring her allies through the rest of the battle to finish off their mortal enemies. And finally, yesterday's drawing was Chris Jericho, best known from WCW, WWE, F days. But currently he just did a run in Japan for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I decided to illustrate that current appearance because I know the requester, Kyle Squeaky Heron, is a big fan of Chris Jericho, specifically that era of the alpha male.
It's still so cool to me that a guy who's an amazing rock star decided to go off and do wrestling. That's just neat.
Well, yeah, that's how it happened.
No, it's actually funny. So his band Fozzy is coming to Little Rock soon.
Yes, they are.
I really want to go see them.
But that is all for today. You guys have been amazing because last episode especially, I said keep the requests coming and keep them wacky. And by God, you have kept them wacky. There's some interesting drawings down the pipeline. I've got a long list already, but I need more. Keep on requesting. Nice.
Well, very cool. You've been doing a great job, man. I love seeing those. That's one of the highlight of my days is when you throw those up there.
I appreciate it.
So speaking of wrestling, there's a big event coming up. Kind of pay-per-view thing, right?
Yes.
That's happening?
Next Sunday is SummerSlam, one of WWE's 3 big shows a year they do. Top one, of course, we did a special on WrestleMania. Then they're going to do SummerSlam, and after that, it'll be the Royal Rumble later in the year. But next Sunday, or the Sunday coming up by the time y'all are hearing this, is SummerSlam. It is usually, it's their mid-year pay-per-view. It's where a lot of storylines typically change. Maybe some big returns or big character advances happen. In particular, this year, a couple of the big matches that people are really hyped about is the Universal Championship match, which Brock Lesnar, as maybe you know, if not from wrestling, you know, maybe from the UFC. He's a beast of a fighter in real life and in the wrestling ring. He's a great performer. They've been working a lot of recent, they've been working real life into the storyline recently, calling him out because he has a contract where he doesn't have to appear. He's a champion. He's the world champ, but he hasn't been on Raw in months.
Right.
He doesn't have to. That's his contract. And he's been, flirting with going back to the UFC. It's been pretty interesting that they're kind of doing what they call like a shoot work, kind of storyline where they're calling real life issues into their storyline. And now recently, he's always had his own manager, advocate, Paul Heyman. I can go on years about this guy. He's been in the wrestling business his entire life. He's always been the mouthpiece for Brock Lesnar, talking shit for him, setting up his matches like management. And Lesnar recently attacked him on the show.
Oh, wow.
So he split from his longtime manager. So this is making a lot of people theorize that maybe Lesnar is going to finally drop the title and go full on UFC for a while, which he's done in the past. And his opponent is Roman Reigns, who is what WWE is trying to push as the next John Cena, the next Hulk Hogan, the big man for the company. He is definitely their favorite. So that one's really interesting just because there is the real life implications of like, okay, is he just going to keep having the title and then go off and go start training for a real fight in the UFC? So that one's got a lot of people paying attention. And similarly, there's actually another UFC fighter in a main event is for the women's title is Ronda Rousey, who will be challenging the champion Alexa Bliss. Rousey made her wrestling debut at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Then promptly didn't have a single match until a whole month later after that, annoying me amongst some others, to be honest, is because she was advertised as full-time. She's committed to this. Had her second match. Then got suspended for 30 more days because she attacked me in the storyline, but then, again, didn't wrestle for another 30 days. So now at SummerSlam, which I said, because of the implications of how big of a show it is, we're thinking it's likely they're going to put the belt on her, and then we're going to see if she's going to actually start being a full-time wrestler or another Brock Lesnar. So a lot of people are watching for that kind of aspect. And of course, with them being outside of WWE superstars before they came in, bringing in a lot of mainstream attention. So it's a big show. There's a lot of hype, a lot of outside hype. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, you probably at least heard about Ronda Rousey or maybe Brock Lesnar fighting in here. So we had a lot of hype built into that. And with that hype, I actually got some friends of mine together, or a friend of mine together, actually, because I only just met the other two. If you remember from our WrestleMania special, we brought in the ever energetic and fun John Allen, a.k.a. Action Jackson.
He's a good dude, man.
The indie wrestler. He tours around all around the South. He's wrestled up north. He's made appearances in the WWE as from everything from security to, EMT. Getting slapped by Nikki Bella, getting punched by Seth Rollins. He was on a conga line with No Way Jose recently on Raw. Great dude, always good to talk with him. And he brought in a couple of up-and-coming wrestlers that are being trained under him. Basically, it was Nick and Candace. They came in and we had a long conversation talking about them coming up in the wrestling business, what they think about SummerSlam that's coming up, and just talking about what it's like being up and coming wrestler and learning under someone who's now been in the indie scene for 10 years. I think it was a really fun interview. I had a really good time. I said, and that's something we'll be posting up here in a little while.
Yeah, very cool. It should be coming out later this week that you got that interview. What is it that you always call wrestling?
Oh, it's anime for rednecks.
I love that. It makes me, that cracks me up.
He ain't wrong.
Not wrong. It's wrestling is my guilty pleasure, and I'll take every chance I can to trick y'all into letting me talk about wrestling on this comic book podcast.
A lot of folks love it, and there's a lot of crossover between wrestling and what we consider like superhero stuff. All right, so that's kind of what's been going on in the world as far as news and all that fun stuff, and our Facebook and the wrestling stuff. Wrestling, man. But let's talk about some books.
Yeah,
you want to talk about some comics? Let's get Smothered Covered and comics. Who's kicking us off this time? Because I didn't look at my thing.
It's me. So, I guess I'm on the Sandman theme today. We talked about that a minute ago, but Sandman Universe started. And for those of you that don't know, Vertigo is relaunching the Sandman Universe, which is going to be a series of titles. I think it's 6 different titles, maybe 5, that are going to take place with characters that were created in the Sandman book. So this Sandman Universe book, of course, it's DC Vertigo. Neil Gaiman put the story together, but it was written by, I'm just going to give you a list of all of the creators. Cy Spurrier, Nalo Hopkinson, Kat Howard, Dan Waters, Biliquis Evely, Domo Stanton, Tom Fowler, Max Fiumara, Sebastian Fiumara, and Matt Lopes. They all worked on this book. It's a anthology type book where they did the section that's going to tie into their book that they're going to write here coming up. So they give you the backstory and reintroduce you to all of these characters. The premise of the story is that Sandman has gone missing again, which is kind of what happens at the original Sandman at the beginning of the story. And with him missing, the dreaming is falling apart. There's a tear in the sky. The librarian, Lucien, he is starting to forget things, which is really funny. He runs this library. In every book that's ever even been dreamt of is in this library.
Oh,
so
wow.
even if you didn't write it, if you dreamt of it, it's stored in this library, and he knows where everything's cataloged. But one of the names of one of the books in there, which really cracked me up, was Martyred by Retcon. It was, to me, a pretty meta thing, but kind of cracked me up a bit. So as the dreaming's falling apart, all of these characters that live within the dream, that work for Dream, they live within the dreaming and work for Dream, show up, and they're going to Lucien, who's in charge when Dream's not there, and they're like, what's going on? We need to find him because he's got to fix this. And so Lucien sends Matthew the Raven out, the messenger Raven, out to go find Dream. And as such, he goes through, and you kind of, through his eyes, meet up with everybody that's going to have a series. You meet, for instance, Dora, Lucifer, which a lot of people don't know that Lucifer, that's in the current DC continuity, got his start in Sandman when he decided that he no longer was going to run hell, and he walked out of hell and left it for other people to control. Tim Hunter, who is kind of DC's version of Harry Potter. If you haven't read books of magic, that's who that character is based on. Well, he's going to get a new book in the new series. Again, it's just a reintroduction of all of these. I thought it was done pretty well. There's a little bit of disjointedness because they're telling it through Matthew's eyes, but each one's drawn by a different person and told a little bit different. Even though you can tell that the way it's written, Neil Gaiman put it together because it very well fits within the Sandman context. And the thing about Sandman, it's really okay that it's a little disjointed because you're supposed to feel like you're seeing it through a dream.
Right.
And then at the end, Matthew kind of catches up to Dream. And as you do when you wake up from a dream and you can't remember, Dream sends him off and doesn't really respond to him, and he can't remember that he even saw him.
Oh, wow.
And Lucien's like, he made you forget, didn't he? And he's like, how did you know? And so they kind of are piecing it together that maybe Dream's abandoning the dreaming.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to see how that all plays out.
That's going to spin that world up.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
So how do you how do you feel about it as the starting of the franchise?
I was perfectly fine with it. I really enjoyed it. I'm really hoping that they can keep that Sandman tone, which is, to me, is the main thing. They had all these spin-off books before, so this is kind of cool to have these spin-off books that are actually going to be tied into, hopefully, this connection to Dream missing. I mean, hopefully there's some tie in all of that, and at the end of this, we kind of get a resolution to all that. So
you may have said this and I just missed it. Which version of Dream is this? Is this
do you want me to blow the I mean, I can go.
I mean, do I want you to blow? What? Where's this going?
Spoiler.
Slaps roof him out.
This is a huge spoiler. So I talked about the death and resurrection of Dream. So Morpheus is Dream in the Sandman book. There's a kid named Daniel that is born within he's conceived and born in the dreaming, but he's a human. And because he was conceived and born within the dreaming, is actually set up to be the resurrection of Morpheus. When he dies, Daniel takes over for him. And that's who is currently Dream right now. Is
Very
Daniel.
cool.
And you said he's the one that wears all white. And
whereas Dream was black.
Morpheus was
black. I mean, Morpheus wore black with black hair and dark eyes. Daniel's got blonde hair and wears white hair. He's alabaster in color and wears white robes. Yeah. So it's pretty much the opposite of Dream, and it has more humanity because he was a human. So
you're going to let me borrow your Sandman Omnibus so I can actually read it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, you really need to.
I need to. I'm a bad comic.
It's a slow burn, but it's well worth the payoff, and I'm sorry I just spoiled the big payoff to you.
I kind of expected that. I think a lot of people did. Well, I'm glad you really liked this kickoff to the Sandman universe. So my book of the week is also a kickoff. It's a kickoff that I don't know how I feel about. So we have our
35-yard penalty.
Sports. So this is earlier I made the comment that we have a 50-50 rule on the show, and if we didn't like something, at least 50%. If we don't have something completely positive to say, then we don't talk about it because there's no point in dragging something through the mud. And I'm going to do that. I'm right on that 50-50 line with this one. I'm like 51-49. And the book I read for this week is the newest issue of Marvel's 2-in-1 featuring The Thing, right? No, it's actually the Fantastic Four #1, but it should have been Marvel's 2-in-1 featuring The Thing. The Fantastic Four are back. We've been waiting for this moment for a long time. They've been gone, tons of speculation as to why, because of comic book sales or because of the fact that Fox owned the film rights, what have you. No one who is actually the decision maker has actually came out and said, we all kind of figure we know why. But that's the thing. But they're back. Marvel's first family's back. Kind of, in a way.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and break down this story for you. This is written by Dan Slott. As you know, he just came off of a decade-long run on Spider-Man that people liked and people disliked. This actually has two different story elements to it. The first one's drawn by Sarah Pacelli, who I love. The art's fabulous. The second part of it is drawn by Simone Bianchi, who I love. Love Simone Bianchi. So when we get into it, I actually like the second part of the story better than maybe the main part of the story. And there's reasons. And Simone Bianchi is a big part of that.
You talking about the backup story?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Did you read this?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I picked it up. I read it. I'm there with you.
I see you. So let me go ahead and break down this story for you for just a second, just to kind of tell you what's going on. In Marvel 2-in-1, we have been getting the adventures of Johnny Storm and the Thing as they go out and they look for Reed and Sue and the kids, because Reed and Sue and the kids are missing after Secret Wars. They're gone. They're thrown up into the universe and they're rebuilding things, doing all kinds of weirdness. But everybody kind of thinks they're dead. Even Ben Grimm thinks they're dead. But Johnny, he's got like that flame of hope, pun intended. And so he still thinks they're alive. And so that's what they've been doing. They've been going through the multiverse, unsuccessfully hunting for them. The opening of Fantastic Four #1, it's still just Johnny and Ben. And they're still looking for the family. They're still there's conversations happening about what's going on, where they're at. Johnny's catching a Mets game because, he's trying to live his life. Him and Wyatt Wingfoot, who is their pilot, doing things. They're having fun. The really funny moment where they get featured on the big scoreboard.
Prompt screen.
Yeah, that thing, and Wyatt's like, yeah, but if they throw us on the kiss cam, I'm not kissing you, which right there for me, that was the reason I quit reading the book, because that's all I want out of Fantastic Four anyway. No, just kidding. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Fantastic Four signal goes off. Like in Fantastic Four history, the flare gun that jumps up and it writes Fantastic Four in the sky, that goes off. And everybody's heart just kind of skips a beat. Like, this is the moment we've been waiting on. Johnny, his sister's coming back. His brother-in-law and his niece and nephew are coming back. There's this amazing, it's happening, finally. Yeah, what? No, fuck. It's actually some kids from the Yancey Street gang who broke into Ben's old apartment and stole the flare gun and shot it off in the air. So there's gimmick #1. And so there's this moment of they got their hopes up and it crushed. But as Ben goes back to his apartment, he's going through some of his old paraphernalia, call it, his ephemera. And he finds this gem that reminds him of this really cosmic story where all the Fantastic Four members are going through space. Alicia's with them. They've got baby Fantastic Four, the cosmic genius.
Reed?
Franklin, yeah. He's in there. They're doing their thing. And there's this character who's like getting them back through the multiverse, getting them back home, and they have to sing. Well, that's what this gem represents. It reminds them of this story, so you get this little issue. They're going back in time, reliving this moment. So you're getting some Fantastic Four characterization there, but it brings Ben back to the future, and he just decides, I need to move on with my life. I need to do something. Like, how do we carry on with the loss of our friends and our family? He proposes to Alicia, which is amazing. That's awesome. Like that's a fantastic moment. Again, pun intended. We've been waiting for that moment for years. I love these two as a couple, and you get this beautiful Sarah Pacelli drawn spread of him proposing to her. Fantastic. Like it's really, really touching and heartwarming. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, okay. So again, we're spoiling books. So they go to tell Johnny. Ben asks Johnny to be his best man. Like that. They're the last two alive. It's only fitting. Johnny loses it. He's like, no, I'm not going to be your best man. The only person who should be your best man is Reed Richards. And he's still alive, goddammit. I know he is. And Ben's like, no, dude. And so Johnny freaks out, launches himself up into the air. He flames on. He does his thing. And it's that moment, like, and this is one of the better parts of the story. Comes back down and just crying. He's like, they're gone, aren't they? They're like, he accepts it. He is the last bastion of hope, other than Alicia, honestly, of accepting that they're gone. And so he's just holding them and crying. All of a sudden, you get a cut where it goes out in space. You don't know where they are or what's happening. You get 2 pages, and it's Reed and Sue, and they're working on something. And then all of a sudden, in space above Earth, this big cosmic flashlight of a number 4 hits. And that's the end of that story. This is not a bad story. It's not. It's a bad Fantastic Four number 1. Mm-hmm. It is a really good, if this had been the final issue of Marvel 2-in-1, I would be launching this into everyone's boxes. Yeah. Because it really is good. As the launching point for the Marvel's first family, for this build up, this momentous thing that's happening after being gone for years, this is bullshit. Like this is not a number 1 for me. Now, Sarah Pacelli's art's amazing. Mm-hmm. It really is. And it alone is worth this book. And again, I'll go read this book. It's a great book. It's a bad number 1. Now,
can I just address that real quick?
Absolutely, man.
So the problem with that book for me, with that part of the book, the other parts we're going to get to here in a second, was just that Marvel 2-in-1, we were told, was bringing the Richards back to Earth so that we could have a Fantastic Four event, a Fantastic Four book again. That's what we were told. Now, we read Marvel 2-in-1. Nothing happened of any real importance.
Oh, some fun adventures happened.
Yeah, but we didn't get the Richards back. And now we're going to have to go through an entire story arc, probably, of them getting the Richards back before we actually get a fucking Fantastic Four book.
Right.
And that's my problem with it. And it's like Sean says, he hates the getting the group back together, getting the band back together. We shouldn't have had that in this book because we had Marvel 2-in-1 to do that.
Right.
That's my problem with it. But outside of that, I like the book.
I fully.
It was certainly better than chemotherapy.
So just to explain that, that's a reference. For those of you who listen to other podcasts, the 11 O'Clock's Comic Podcast host Vince Montevilla, he hated this book. He said he enjoyed chemotherapy more than it. Giggle. Like that's okay. He's had cancer. He's gone through it. So that's a thing. But the other issue I had with this book is there seems to be a separation of continuity. So you're getting these moments to where you're talking to people who have been members of the Fantastic Four. You get Crystal and Medusa, who right now, what's the big event going on? Death of the Inhumans. Yeah. And so they're just all nonchalantly in current time talking. You also get She-Hulk in this, who is just regular Jen Walters and not the Hulk character.
Which we haven't seen.
Which is in Avengers. Yeah, we haven't seen that. So where does this fit in at? Why aren't these offices talking to each other? And why aren't we getting like real-time continuity? That bothers me a little bit. But then The other thing goes into the second story, and I love the second part of this story.
Before you get into that, though, that flashback story that Ben Grimm was telling them about is everything that I want
out of a real story. Yep.
They're essentially flying on this ship in space in another dimension, and the whole thing that they have to do to get back is seeing at the wavelength so they can connect to their dimension. And she says, who is the best singer among them? And everyone says Johnny except Sue, and she's like, me. And then she's like, wait, what? And like, she looks at Reed and she's like, you love my singing. And he's like, yeah.
She looks at Franklin and Franklin says, Mommy, please don't sing. Yeah. it's great. Yeah. It really is. Like, again, a fun book, great moments. The second part of this story gets into more of who's the classic villain. It's Dr. Doom. In recent Marvel stories, Dr. Doom he's pretty again. He's being Victor more than Dr. Doom. He's kind of a hero. He's kind of an anti-hero in this book, and he's back to being like deformed, which I don't know where that happened.
Was part of my problem is you talked about continuity in this book. The last time we saw Victor was in Iron Man 600, and nothing happened to him to deform him that I remember.
I need to go back and read the last issue of Marvel 2-in-1 because it might have happened there. I don't remember.
Maybe.
But yeah, I'm just kind of curious. Like he's back in Latveria. He's taken over his country again. I loved it. Simone Bianchi. Gorgeous art. So yeah, I'm stuck in the middle ground with this book. Go read it. It's a really good book. It's worth the read.
It's a great setup book. If only we didn't have a series that was supposed to be the setup.
It's kind of a shit
zero issue or something like that.
It's a zero issue, right? Yeah. It's a shit launch pad though. Yeah. So come on, Marvel. All right, somebody else go. Make me happy. Give me something to be happy about. Come on, guys.
My book of the week is about a depressing world of. Actually, it is. My book of the week is actually Unnatural, issue 2. Continuing investigating the world. For those of you who haven't read it or listened to me talking about it before, the story is done with humanoid animals, anthropomorphic animals, in a world where interspecies and same-sex relationships are banned. And in this issue, we actually find out the actual extent of the penalty for doing that. It opens with a courtroom scene of a interspecies couple getting sentenced to 5 years in what the news reporter, who is, you can tell, is completely just, they kiss up to the government.
Yeah.
Like I said, not a very subtle nod to events going on in the real world using these animals. But 5 years at the beautiful Defiance Rehabilitation Center, in which which of course they're going to go learn how not to bang an animal of a different species, is what they're basically saying. Like, you're not allowed to have any kind of, in our terms, it'd be interracial relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Interspecies erotica.
It's completely banned, and they casually just mention in the courts if they do it again, second offender is a straight death penalty.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's very, very intense. And they come outside, reporters are just casually talking to them like, "Do you regret your choices?" There's protests calling them monsters, and some of them calling them heroes. So you see and it ends in a riot because the man in the relationship just looks at the camera and goes, "Fuck the leader," and just flips off the camera. It was very great. That was how it opened.
Which animal is he again? I need to go back and reread the...
The leader is a koala bear.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Overweight koala bear.
That makes sense. God damn it.
And keep in mind, this was made in 2016, so I mean... but
foreshadowing.
Well, it's an Italian comic, right?
It is.
Yeah, well, the Italians are dealing with their own thing, too, right now.
We get in a little history, actually, with Leslie, the main character. There's little nods about, she's about to go into the program, and she's been having these confusing dreams about the white wolf, which, is like, the dream was real, and she'd be in just as much trouble because she's a pig and he's a wolf. And you find out a little bit of history. She's talking with her friend Trish, just kind of about like the dreams and some back history, which I don't want to get into because you need to go read this damn book. It's so good. Yeah. But you do find out that, like, Trish, she's Leslie is, as her friend Trish calls her, thick, and a thick pig with blue hair and some tattoos and piercings. But you actually find out that her hair is naturally blue. She was born with blue hair, which, granted, pigs don't naturally have hair anyway, but in this world, that's a strange, they're not just born with random colored hair. So and which you find out that's a little more significant because it kind of focuses over to her friend Trish, who's a mouse, who's her best friend. Kind of wanted to figure out what's going on with these dreams about this wolf because it seemed like way too realistic for a wolf. I mean, for a dream with this wolf that her friend's having. And she ends up finding this book that involves a fairy tale involving a blue-haired pig and a white wolf. So there might be something even more to what's going on. And of course, it's dealing with Trisha stressing over getting put into the relationship center because now she's 25 and single. So another great book. It's building into the world. It's showing more about how fucked up it is. People are telling you who you can and can't love in a world, and you will die if you do it again. Basically, it's beautiful art, interesting story. Just go out and buy it.
Yeah.
It's 2 issues in from Image Comics. It's amazing.
It's a statement on conversion therapy, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the word for it.
Yeah, so they're clearly going into a center, which I'm pretty sure is probably going to involve electroshock therapy, as it typically does. Like I said, and it's a no punches pulled. They're using animals because for whatever reasoning, but it's not even trying to hide what
it's a
really
good mechanism, though.
Well, yeah, it's similar to Animal Farm.
Oh, thank you for saying that, because I had, even though I had it written down, I almost forgot to say it. When the president is addressing after the trial, he gives out the quote, which, as I mentioned when I first kind of talked about the book, one of our inspirations was Animal Farm, that the president is quoted saying, all animals are equal as long as they respect the laws and nature. That's kind of like just the motto under his rule.
Heard that before.
Yeah. So no punches pulled, not being subtle about what they're talking about. It's a damn good book.
Well, if you do it in anamorphic animals instead of humans, sometimes you can get away with saying things that
maybe
you can.
I don't know what to say. How, like I said, it was originally published in Italy. I don't know if there's even more issue with them with free speech of that kind of nature going on or not, but
historically Italy, in World War II you had Mussolini, who was there, but also right now they also in Italy are having issues with what we call the far right over here, kind of taking power of the government. In Europe they're having there's this same nationalist buildup that they're having here as well. It's a global thing.
And like I said, artwork is absolutely stunning. The creator, whose name I'm just going by, I think it's Mirka is her name. Absolute talented artist. And I know she's done some American work. I need to go find it. If nothing else, for the art alone. I don't care what the book is about.
Absolutely. Beautifully drawn.
This is one of those books that I'm going to fall in love with.
You need to jump
hard.
on.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm reading it.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
On the DC side of things this week, did anybody else do a DC?
No, I think you're the lone DCer. Well, no, you did.
I did Vertigo.
Yeah. Is it Sandman Vertigo?
It's DC Vertigo. Is what they're calling it.
It's the redheaded stepchild.
I actually talked about it last week, being pretty excited about it. Sideways #7. I have not been reading this book, and I really regret it because I hear so many good things about it, mostly from people online are really talking about it. And it's kind of funny because usually whenever you get a new character, people will bitch about it and complain about it. I'm reading Brimstone and the Terrifics, and I'm loving both of those, and those are spawning out of Dark Knight's Metal.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to pick up trades to get caught up. The special thing about this issue that I was really interested in is they're bringing in the 7 Soldiers of Victory. They've been a thing for quite a while. I think the big one that popped up was around Final Crisis, unless I'm mistaken. I can't really remember. But the team was Shining Knight, Guardian, Bulleteer, Clarion the Witch Boy, Frankenstein, Zatanna, and Mr. Miracle. They start off the book, and you find out that there's some, cataclysm about to happen, and they're missing a member. So they just, first it looks like they're going to recruit Sideways to be their new member. As I said, I haven't been reading this book, and Sideways is going through some shit.
Yeah.
His mother just died or got murdered, from what it looks like, and he seems solely very responsible that this has happened. He feels very guilty about it throughout the book.
Yeah, so what happened, just so you know, is his mom worked for a company. She found out they were investigating him. She didn't know he had these powers. She found the files on their work computer, was watching them. They killed her.
Yeah.
So the company she worked for killed her.
So he's going through grief through the majority of the book with that. And then he finally decides to go to school, and people are just straight assholes to him just about this whole thing. I don't know, these teenagers are really douchebags. So he kind of actually starts to he goes off on him, and he uses his power which nobody really knows that he has except I'm guessing his best friend.
Yeah,
he opens up like a portal to a river or something, and he's washing them all away, and then time stops, and it ends up being the 7 soldiers, and it's Zatanna that stopped time, and the rest of the soldiers, and he's like kind of freaking out about this, and he thinks that he's being attacked by villains, when really they want to recruit him to get his help to find their 7th soldier, and he reluctantly decides to join, mostly because he feels that like it's something that his mom would have wanted him to do, is to go and help these people, and it's like the art's fantastic in it. You've got Kenneth Rocafort and Dan Didio. Yeah, I said that right. Writing.
If not, feel free to come on this podcast and fight Jerry over it.
It's Didio.
Didio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you have Ivan Placencia and Dan Brown doing the art for it. And it was a really well done. I don't know if they've been on it for the entire run. Yeah, it was beautiful. Frankenstein is one of my favorite like obscure as fuck DC characters, and I'm glad that they're putting him in something. The Mr. Miracle, I actually didn't even know that there was a second Mr. Miracle, and this is Shiloh Norman. Then I'm not too familiar on the Bulleteer. Shining Knight and Clearing the Witch Boy I'm somewhat familiar with from reading Demon Knights whenever they were putting that out for New 52. And then, of course, you have Zatanna and Frankenstein, and I just like it was a really great book. I look forward to continuing the storyline. Like I said, I'm gonna go and pick up the back issues of it. I have the first issue. I just need to get like 2 through 6 now.
So the thing about these books is they're kind of all of these books that have spawned out of Metal are pretty much takes on classic Marvel characters.
Mm-hmm.
Damage is the Hulk. The Terrifics is a version of the Fantastic Four. Sideways is Spider-Man.
And Brimstone's pretty much Ghost Rider.
Yeah. So Sideways is doing really well because they're writing Peter Parker. Mm-hmm. Which is a story that it's teenage Peter Parker, high school Peter Parker again. So you're getting that kind of same story again. There's a nostalgia feel to it. His mom's now dead because of him being a hero. Uncle Ben died because of him being a hero, or not being a hero, but he's fascinated with videotaping himself and putting it on the internet, that sort of thing. So it's been really, really good up to this point. So
I look forward to getting caught up in it.
The New Age of Heroes, and I actually like that this one's doing well because the first one out of this line just got canceled.
The Immortals?
The Immortal Men.
Yeah, Immortal Men.
Is getting canceled, yeah. So it didn't make it.
It wasn't that great. It was okay.
I didn't read it.
Yeah, it wasn't that great.
I'm why it got canceled.
So the ones I am reading are really good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been hearing
Sideways.
a lot of people talk about Silencer.
Silencer's fantastic.
In side note,
that's
bit of news
Punisher.
that I forgot about, but didn't they just announce that Silencer is going to be in DC?
She is.
She's going to be in Arrow, supposedly.
Okay. Yeah, that's
now
cool.
It could just be Arrowverse, but she's supposed to be in Arrow. And she's basically the Punisher.
Yeah, it was honestly kind of difficult for me to pick what I was going to do because a lot of good shit that I like came out. Amazing Spider-Man 3 was really good. Flash, they threw Citizen Cold in it.
Yeah.
And I was and we haven't talked
Commander
about
Cold.
Commander?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's the one that's displaced because they came back in time.
He has a flying motorcycle, which is pretty fucking great. And Farmhand, we haven't talked about Farmhand yet.
Yeah, you like everyone who's got a flying motorcycle.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, Farmhand was really good. And then the other
Shadow
one
Roads.
I haven't read it yet, but I've got it. Caleb and I both wish that we had been able to talk about Red Hood this week because it was good.
Yeah.
But
you got any shout outs you want to give to other comics? Any runners up this week, Sean?
Savage Dragon was entertaining as always. Sword Daughter is expanding more onto the world.
Yes. If he doesn't win not Brian Wood, but if the colorist of that book, who I'm going blank on right now, does not end up winning some type of award for this book, I'm going to be highly pissed and nothing else makes sense. Jose Villarrubia is his name. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
If he doesn't win coloring awards for this, then I'm going to be highly
Sword
upset.
Daughter is amazing.
And, Domino was very interesting as well.
Domino was super good, I thought.
Really good.
Yeah.
I really regret not getting on Domino because now I'm following Gail Simone on Twitter. And I keep seeing people like retweet and like comment about how good it is.
Oh, Domino's been phenomenal.
Some of the comments about like she's in love with or just infatuated with Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, he's definitely getting to first base. Maybe second base, but just under the blouse, over the bra. He can go under the bra if he wants to, you know.
It's been great. Great writing on that. That almost was, but something just keeps compelling me. I need to talk about Unnatural. The book needs more attention.
It's so good, man. You're absolutely right. So my honorable mentions of the week, I want to send a shout out to a book that came out this week. It's called Predator Hunters 2. The first issue came out. Art by Augustin Padilla is outstanding. It's really kicking off. It's a Predator story. I love that franchise. I love those books. It's been really good. Hawkman.
Hawkman was so good.
Brian Hitch. So the story is amazing. 80% of the art is amazing, and the 20% of the art that I don't like, I think, is the inker's fault. So, but anyway,
I wasn't real excited about Hawkman Thor, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, there was some issues, and like you said earlier, Old Man Logan was phenomenal. So, all titles that I've spoken about before that I'm really enjoying. So, do we want to get ahead of ourselves a little bit and talk about some stuff that's coming out next week? Well, let's do it. I will kick us off on this. So the book I'm looking forward to, and I want to get ahead of myself by talking about, is Batwoman Volume 2, number 18. I've really, really enjoyed this Batwoman run. It comes out next week. It's actually wrapping this series up. It's the final issue of Margaret Bennett's run on Batwoman. It's been really great. It's going to tie in some things such as Batwoman's place as a member of the Bat family. It's putting her at odds with Batman. It's putting her at odds with herself. Her sister is back in the story, who, you know, if you know her sister, she's got some emotional problems and is sometimes a villain. And also, I hate that it's happening at the end of the story, but her love affair with Renee Montoya is kicking back up. Her relationship, at least, is kicking back up, and that's going to be cool. So I'm curious to see how they're going to wrap it up.
They're going to move it to Detective Comics,
which means I'm going to have to go get on Detective Comics again.
My book for next week, Edge of Spidergeddon, comes out. Oh, yeah. We're on the cusp. Spidergeddon's getting ready to start up. The first book is going to be about Spider-Punk, who is one of my personal favorite from Spider-Verse. The fucking cover, he's so metal. He's a UK punk rocker. He's got the spikes and the fucking denim jacket, and I'm super pumped about it. It's going to be done by Jed McKay and Gerardo Sandoval. I don't know why I couldn't say that name, but I am super pumped about Spidergeddon and everything that it's going to. And yes, all of it. I'm down. I'm ready.
Sean?
Book I'm looking forward to next week is Usagi Yojimbo, The Hidden, number 5. It's continuing the investigations with Usagi and Inspector Ishida, enlisting the help of Nezumi the Thief. Now, it's been the book I've talked about before about the items they're trying to find that involve the Kirishitans, and now they're starting to look like it's getting close to involving the Shogunate. So, I mean, after this issue, there'll be 2 more. It's wrapping up, and I'm looking forward to it, and just more so than Law and Order Gotham.
My book is Xtermination. It's the next X event book that's launching. Ed Brisson, Pepe Larraz, and Mark Brooks on it. I believe this book is leading into the relaunch of X-Men. I think they're gonna, if my understanding is correct, they're supposed to kill off a bunch of the mutants, but I don't know if that's, they always say these are, event changing,
yeah, we'll see,
universe changing events or whatever, but
Maybe.
I think they're trying to get the mutants down to a manageable level again.
Wolverine's going to come back for 5 minutes and die again.
No, that is, I promise you that's
the
not
best book ever.
So, yeah, I think that's the whole thing is that you're going to, maybe not Death of Inhumans level extinction, but you're going to have, I think they're trying to get the mutants down to a manageable level of number again. So you don't have to have 4 X-Men books to cover a quarter of the potential teams. But so
Gideon Falls #6 comes out next week too.
It does,
and I think that's this book's going to be the end of their
first
story arc.
Very cool.
Honorable mention for last week was the end of the first arc of Oblivion Falls.
Oh, yeah.
Or Oblivion Song.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, does that wrap up everything we want to talk about in the comics world this week?
Indeed.
We got any final business we need to handle?
I'm comicked out.
Comicked out?
I'm old. I'm ready for a nap.
Go give Sean some more stuff to draw, and
Please
then
do.
give me some more questions. And really looking forward to that interview, Sean, that we're going to do this next week, man.
It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughs.
I can't wait to hear that. Well, guys, if nothing further, let's bring this thing home. We hope you've enjoyed episode 32. This show, we love doing it. We love bringing it to you. We love getting together to chit chat. Come on Twitter. Come on Instagram. Get on our Facebook page. Talk to us. Let us know what you're into. Let us know what you're doing. Make fun of us. Whatever. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, you can always send them to southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. And like I said, stay tuned later this week for a special interview episode going to drop. We're going to talk about some wrestling, or Sean is anyway. He's going to bring his expertise to that and drop it to the mat. And then we're going to be back next week for some more comic talk and some manga and some just generally good stuff. Jerry, happy birthday again. We like you a little bit, and we're glad you were born.
Rip my 20s.
Yeah, RIP your 20s, man. Welcome to Club 30. Guys, if nothing else, go forward and love some comics.
Yeah.